right? Like a lot of sedatives. There's a lot of like heroin's not going to make you more likely to go out and get in a fight. Um, Speed, at least in short term, is not going to like
Oh, it's horrible.
completely inebriate your mind, right? So if we can have functioning alcoholics, I see no reason why we can't have functioning every other substance, except that you're not allowed to be a functioning alcoholic. I think it's absurd, or I'm sorry, you're not allowed to be a functioning anything else. And I think it's absurd that the way that we choose to address the harm that addiction causes on society is to increase the harm immediately, right? Like, this is bad for you, so we're going to go ahead and fuck your life up right now.
Yeah, but that's also a deterrent. If you do this, we're going to fuck your life up worse than this would fuck your life up.
I mean, there's millions of people in prison that will say otherwise, as far as it being a deterrent.
Yeah, but it's a weird thing to say like that, because then what you'd have to do is get someone before they committed the crime and see how their life panned out, and then see someone who committed the crime and see how their life panned out. You can never do like a one for one to see which was the better effect.
But we can look at, and I actually think that with drugs specifically, it's the opposite, because when you with prohibition, when you make something illegal, you blast the price of it up, right? And so that artificially inflated profit margin, I think, then provides a lot of incentive for people who now want to sell you drugs. Whereas if you didn't if they weren't illegal at all, and that economic mechanism wasn't there, then what you'd have is just like Drano and weeds, right? These are not expensive products without prohibition.
I think you and I have discussed this before. The problem with, well, I certainly see a problem with the legalization of drugs, because then you hand over the reins to big pharmaceutical companies who we can all see how they can fucking dictate and take over the reins of the world. You really want to give them the power to give drugs and control drugs. You know, like when we have problems with, like,
I want them all to just be legal. I don't think it needs to go into the big pharma's hand. You can just have it just like a liquor store.
So you genuinely believe that that's going to happen? So,
No.
like, sorry, just let me finish. So you could go and you can't even grow your own fucking tobacco, especially anywhere in any country I've lived. You can't even grow your own fucking tobacco. You have to go and get it through a fucking registered country. But you think that then they're going to legalize drugs and they're going to be like, okay, it's free reign for everyone. You just make whatever you want and you can just go and sell it on any fucking corner. No, obviously not. Big business is going to step in and take full fucking control.
Well,
Sorry,
look at
I was saying what a solution to it would be. I don't think it's going to happen. But the first step towards anything like that happening is to get people's head in the right spot.
I don't think that's going to happen this century.
That's fine.
It's already happening.
Put your head in the right spot.
It's sort of happening with marijuana in the U.S. Like, that was very illegal a couple of years ago. Now, like, in most states in America, it's like, if not recreational, it's like medically available.
Mm-hmm. And now they're getting closer with shrooms, ketamine, all sorts of hallucinogens. I mean, the slow slog out of the prison planet is underway.
Do you not think that it's a good idea that we're slowly going through drugs that were once illegal, finding out their medical benefits, and then slowly releasing them out to the public, rather than just being like, okay, all drugs completely blanket, do whatever the fuck you want with them? You think that that's better than slowly finding out what the therapeutic needs or therapeutic benefits of these things are and releasing them?
No.
Okay,
I would pull the lever right now and drop every drug enforcement immediate and immediately.
Well, I think they're not mutually exclusive. Decriminalization does not mean you can't.
How would you? So what you're saying, that maybe instead of just not putting people in prison for drugs, we could put some people in prison and then gradually imprison fewer and fewer people for things they shouldn't be in prison for.
No, not really. What I'm saying is we should stick to the fucking law as it is. So these are the drugs that are illegal. If you do anything with these, you end up in fucking prison. Fucking simple. I would stick to the rule of law as it is.
I'm guessing you're not from the USA, but I don't ever know this. But like, if you go to jail in the USA or prison, you're actually more likely to use like harder drugs. Like, if you look at stats, like if you can go in sober and like come out like being a heroin user. So I don't know how it's going to really help the problem.
It hasn't helped the problem in 45 years of the war on drugs. It's only made
So,
all the problems
Is
worse.
that a problem with the drugs, or is that a problem with the prison system?
That's a problem with the approach towards substance abuse that we have.
But you're saying that you go in a light criminal and commit a hardened criminal. What's that got to do with drugs?
Well, there's a lot of people who are in there for mild drug charges who then pick up a lifestyle.
Right, but they broke the law. There's still laws in place. You still broke that fucking law.
Yeah, and it used to be illegal to be a Jew in Europe. I mean, the
Those
law.
laws might be-
The law is not the source of morals.
That might need to be
But,
reformed.
But it is what keeps society together. So, you can't
Or
just
it's
pick
what
and
tears
choose
it
whatever
apart.
law. You can't just pick and choose whatever laws you
Sure
want
you
to break
can.
or what laws.
Absolutely. You can.
Well, you can, but then you can face consequences for it, and then
Things
you
that are
cannot be
illegal
able.
are high
You
risk.
can't
activities.
cry afterwards, man. You can't cry afterwards and be like,
I'm
"Well, I
crying
shouldn't be in jail
beforehand. Actually, I'm crying afterwards.
Wait,
I'm
Yeah.
confused.
way afterwards.
Bit of both.
We're just talking about decriminalizing it. That's
Yeah.
changing the laws.
What do you mean? Sorry.
You're like, we can't change the laws. Like, the law's the way it's got to be. I'm not really understanding your point, honestly, but I think we have a guess now.
So, what's
I
your favorite
am the
flavor
law.
of boots, Leroy?
What? Sorry.
What's your favorite flavor of boot?
Ooh, that is a good question.
That is a good question. Hi,
I would go for a
Mic check.
Nike
1, 2,
boot.
3.
I hear
We
you.
got you.
Sorry, you're on mute, by the way.
So we need more judges on the road, and then you won't need prisons.
We need judge, juries, and executioners, just like you.
I am the law. So I noticed no one got the right answer, so I'll just go ahead and fix
Oh God,
the whole panel
I
for
coming
you.
in.
Yeah.
Here we
So,
go. Thank you, I-Fi.
so first of all, you gotta privatize all the prisons. Step one.
That would
Step
solve it.
two. Step two, you gotta make sure the only role that government plays is the antitrust law that says that no corporation can get a monopoly on the prison system, and so that way they're not in it for profit. They're just in it to keep the peace. And then the final solution is you make sure that all the criminals pay for their sentences. So if a person commits a crime and they're sent to prison, they have to pay their own room and board. That way it's not on the taxpayer's burden to prison these people. So that is the correct answer that nobody got. So nice try.
Okay, well, Rose raises a great question. So how can it be private but not for profit?
There is a category called not for profit, and so you can have a private institution.
But what's their incentive for doing that? Because it's like, okay, well, I'm going to make no money.
Peace
out of
and
this. Why the fuck
stability
would I
in your
bother?
society. So, like, most people don't
Right.
want gangs roaming free and destroying shit, and so even very successful businesses can double as like a corporation that sells gizmos for profit, but then they
Do you
also
have any examples of your system?
How is it not for profit? I'm
there's
curious. I love your idea, but I just don't. I'm just trying to understand it. How do you have a private without profit? Could you describe how that would
one
work?
more time. So, not for profit is a privately owned business that isn't focused on profit, and so they can even work, with the government, so long as that the government's role is only to avoid monopolies. So, in other words, or more importantly, not just monopolies, conflict of interest. So governments can enforce conflict of interest on private organizations. So, for example, if a private company owns the prison system, that same company cannot also be the police system or the judicial system, because then they would obviously just go around arresting people for any reason just to raise their profits. Secondly, if they're not for profit, the government can keep a check on all their books and their business operations to make sure they're not colluding with the local judges or police systems to, do little deals under the table to make sure, they get all the criminals or more criminals than there are in society.
I love how you describe stuff, Hi-Fi. You do this every time. You describe
I am the law.
You describe all of your systems as these like perfect working, just everything interlocks and works so fucking perfectly. Anyone else would have raised any idea, you'd be like, no, that won't work. Trust me, I've got the fucking answer here. Here is the specific answer that you all need. Here's my perfect system, all laid out. Here's how it's going to fucking work. Nah, bro, it's always just idealistic bullshit for me, bro. I never understand.
He does do that. He does exactly that.
He does. Exactly. Every fucking time, bro. It blows my fucking mind.
I don't hear a rebuttal there, Leroy, other than bitching.
Bro, because every time I give you a rebuttal, you just say no. You're just like, no, that won't work. Let me reiterate everything that I just said all over again.
If the inmates don't want to pay for their stay.
I wasn't asking them. I was telling them they're going to pay for their stay.
Them, because if they don't do it, then what are you going to do to them? Put them in prison? Now you got to loot.
I don't think you understand this flow. Let me explain this slowly so you can understand. So let's say a criminal robs a bank and he steals $1,000.
Okay.
So the first step before he even makes it to prison is he's going to pay that bank back the $1,000 he stole.
Okay, let's role play. I'm the prisoner.
Okay.
No, I'm not paying you. Now what?
Okay, so
Checkmate.
Well, guess what, asshole? You're going to prison, and within the prison system, you're going to do forced labor until you produce $1,000 worth of profit to pay back your debt to society.
No, I'm not.
In addition, you're also going to pay for your rent. So while you're in prison working off your debt, you're also going to pay for your room and board.
Just to make this a bit more clear, you're actually role-playing this. So when he says, no, I'm not, you need to rebuttal that. So this is like a real-life scenario that we're playing out. So when he says no, so you don't just continue down the path that you're going down.
This is the part where the police show up at your door with guns, and they say...
Yeah, but they're not for profit police. They're just like, oh, this isn't really worth my time. I might get hurt here. I'm not
a
really
volunteer. I'm doing this for community service.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
I don't think you guys understand how not-for-profit works. Not-for-profit doesn't mean people don't get paid.
No. That's
I haven't had a chance to respond to what he said.
Go ahead,
Rose.
Please,
Rose, please.
Okay, so I totally agree with you that if the nonprofit was functioning in just that capacity, that would be fantastic. If there was someone that chose to have a not-for-profit company, which was a prison, then that would be great. But there are so many different ways that corruption should still occur, because with nonprofits, so often they still do have like government grants, and they have to partner with other organizations in order to function properly with different kinds of contracts and grants. And then also there might have some like tax exemptions related to, which also ties them to the government. So if it's not truly for profit, they still are going to be in some way, shape, or form tied to the government, the way I see it.
What about charities? Charities are technically not for profit, and charities have done some fucking horrible stuff in the past.
True.
So you just laid it out like, if you're not for profit, then no harm will be done. It's just like, you do this every time. You do this every time, though. Any scenario you paint with your worldview, you just make it out like, guys, trust me, this will work. And it's like,
that's my source.
I can poke holes in all of this every time, dude.
Right.
It's so funny.
I got news for you.
In our world,
there's so much confidence, but it's all bullshit.
I got news for you, little cupcakes. There is no such thing as a perfect system. All systems can become corrupted. The question is, which system is the least?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, but then I want to say something after him.
Because I don't know if this is the best solution, but am I understanding that you're trying to address like the perverse incentive aspect, that you're kind of trying to address that by using the not-for-profit system?
The reason why I'm suggesting the not-for-profit route is because if you allowed the free market to reign and a capitalist to head up a private prison system, they are going to be driven by profit. They're going to be held to shareholders asking, why aren't our profits going up this year? Send more people to prison. I don't care how you get them into prison. Just figure out a way. And that's where the corruption occurs. With the not-for-profit system, the only role of the government is to make sure they are completely transparent about everything they're doing. They're not colluding with the judges or the police force. They are simply running a not-for-profit prison system. So that way, safety and security is maintained. There's no under-the-table dealings. There's no corruption. There's no government monopoly on this bullshit.
How is there no corruption? How can you assure that there's no corruption?
Because it's not for profit, man. Duh, didn't you hear?
Oh,
that?
yeah,
That's my world.
sorry. Yeah, you got me. Sorry.
Because this would be in a libertarian government, not the
Oh, yeah,
current
so everything's
authoritarian
perfect
government.
then.
Morals.
Right, sorry. This is I-5's utopia.
All right, conservataria, bro.
Isn't it true though that it's the employees that end up making extra money with the prisoners, so the prisoners can have more things to make their stay more enjoyable? And no matter what, the prisoners want to make their stay more enjoyable, and there's nothing we can do to stop that business. The underground business of trying to make prison more enjoyable is what the nonprofit would have to fight against, right? To stop the corruption. Their need to not import drugs and other things.
I will back
beauty
I-Fi
of
up just a little bit.
Oh, go ahead.
I'll just back a little bit. It took me a little bit to understand what you're saying, but this does kind of exist out there. It's probably not very common in America because we love our private prisons here, but these do exist as non-governmental organizations. There are some examples of this being done in Norway using the Norwegian model, so we can look more into that. So this does exist. It's not a huge fantasy, but I do wonder if it would work on scale in America.
And I just do want to check my mic and make sure I'm still coming in now. My whole system just crashed. I have no idea what happened, but
Okay,
everything
boomer.
just went to crap. But thank you for your patience and thank you for being on your best behavior during that moment. I
I've said
appreciate
the
it.
N-word a whole bunch of times.
Yeah,
No, you
same.
didn't. I was listening on my phone.
I fight. How? Oh yeah, back to the role playing. No, I'm not working.
Okay, this gun says yes, you are. So you can
Are you
argue
gonna
with
shoot
bullets
me
if
if I
you
don't
want
pay
to.
for my prison stay.
Yeah, shoot him. You have to pay for the bullet, the cleanup, everything.
We'll pay for the bullets.
Ariel.
Those are cheap. Gasoline and bullets
Alright.
are super cheap, so we're good.
You haven't bought bullets in a while, have you?
We'll have the other prisoners make the bullets, the ones that are smart enough not to eat bullets.
Are you AI? Are you a real person?
Maybe. Who's asking?
He's an NPC by the sounds of it,
I've
man.
never seen his voice. His theories work well.
You've
and are
never
internally
seen his
consistent,
voice.
but are
I can't see my
world.
voice either, Flo. I must be using the wrong drugs.
I was a little bit confused hearing the not-for-profit prison guy coming from Judge Dredd. No, I thought you'd be way more about
I
violent
am
justice.
the law. I don't care about your profit. We're just here for justice.
And dick by the sound of your voice.
How would you know, Flo? Anyways, there is a serious argument to have about all this. I don't want to meme too hard on you there, Sarah. I just wanted to stir up the pot a little bit. Anyways,
We still got 6 minutes.
obviously, you have to have a libertarian government in place for this because the current authoritarian government, there's no way you would be able to pull this off because there would be so much collusion, so much crony capitalism, fascism that it would be the same thing we have now, if not worse. So the problem with the government, though, is everyone knows what happens when the government has a monopoly on prisons and law and all that stuff. And so the solution is the private
What was that?
sector.
I love that. Yeah, I agree that the private sector is better.
And to your point, Rose, the beauty of the free market is if one prison is making it too comfortable for prisoners and they're not actually reforming them and they're actually increasing crime rates, that's why you have competition where other prisons can show how it's done right by actually punishing criminals and reforming them and causing them to change their ways. So that's how the
But
free
isn't-
market works.
Yeah, but and then also the beginning of the problem is to stop the cycle from even beginning in the first place, where the laws aren't putting the wrong people in jail. And also another thing to mention is the problem with people's knowledge and education of the system, so they don't know how to protect themselves from the corruption. So it's kind of like a two-way street that we know the corruption's going to occur. So maybe we should be educating our children of, the do's and don'ts of the court system so that they don't get tricked, at least tricked by a lawyer. I know there's a big debate between whether pro se is a good idea or not, but it's good to just at least know if your lawyer's fucking you over, so an education from the very beginning is also beneficial too.
And again, my main point was to find the system that is the least corruptible. There is no such thing as an uncorruptible system as long as humans are involved. So what I'm proposing is the least corruptible system. So anyways, we did gloss over the side topic. It's not actually the question, but like which laws should we have? And I agree the war on drugs is a huge problem in our current prison system, but it's not just that, it's morals and standards and all that good stuff, but that's a whole separate debate. So I followed the topic, Sarah.
I know, you did great. And you first told me that you didn't really have any thoughts on
I don't
it
know
when
jack shit about this topic, and I totally kicked all their asses. So what's up with that?
You just came up and spurred your fucking.
Come on,
point.
Leroy.
It's the same shit every time from you. It's just like blah blah blah, libertarian,
Quit
fucking
rolling
blah blah
over.
blah,
Fight back.
conservatarian, blah blah blah. I'm right, all of you are wrong. It's the same shit every fucking time from
At
you,
least
bro. I can almost like rinse and
there's
repeat it in my own mind.
Leroy thought he wasn't gonna be.
No, like
We
too
found
fucking. It's I-Fi, bro. It's just like that's.
I'm gonna piss him off while you start debating, Sarah. Quit being such a bitch, Leroy. Come on.
I can't help it, man. I can't help it.
Only I could figure it
I
out.
think IFI is working for the prison industry to make people feel some sort of way so that they get put in prison.
I am the
He's here to
law.
drum up business by making people feel violent.
No, I think bad people should be punished and good people should be rewarded. So, that's how my justice system would work.
How would you reward the good people?
By, like giving them a safe, clean environment to prosper in where they don't have to worry about gangs and drugs and weird shit.
That's you're sounding like every great dictator before you.
But why would they not have to worry about drugs? Are we not going to decriminalize drugs in your libertarian society?
Have you read Mein Comfy Chair?
Thank you.
No, I'm straight.
Anyways, I'm not going to derail this
think-
into
I don't-
libertarian.
I don't
So
think he got it.
you only got 2 minutes left, so get your jabs in quick. Come on.
Come on, Leroy.
You're fucking gay, I-Fi.
I know.
Fucking
What else you got?
Really fucking gay.
Flo would know.
I-
So 2 more minutes. Go ahead. Come on.
Fuck you, I-Fi.
All right.
Your worldview
And the-
is shite.
And the horse I rode in on?
That Judge Dredd picture makes you look like a dick.
It's your boyfriend.
I
I'll
find
catch y'all in the after party. I'll give you a real piece of my mind, but I've only got 2 minutes left. So vote Conservataria, Emperor Phi.
Emperor
Can we scrap his last 2 minutes?
See, if I was Emperor, he wouldn't
he
need
did have a
prison.
lot of extra minutes because
Extra minutes.
I didn't get to start the timer because everything froze up on me.
I got a whole
so-
bunch of minutes. I had like 20 minutes.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you got double. But
I
that's
wonder if
okay. That
anyone's
makes
gonna
up
come
on. If you
for
think that you
that
can
makes up for
figure out how
last
to-
week.
How to resolve the pay for your own prison stay paradigm that you've got there in a minute?
Yeah,
and a
you
half.
didn't answer that.
Again, Flo.
Breezed over it.
First, you pay back society what you stole. If you stole $1,000, you either give it back or you earn it back in prison, one way or the other. The easy
What
way
if
or
you
the hard
stole
way.
more? What if you stole more than you could pay back in a lifetime?
That's your
Your
problem.
life-
Then you
life
got a
sentence.
life sentence.
No,
in
no,
jail.
no. But you're the government. You're the government. How are you going to make me pay back something more than I
Then you
could
just
actually
signed
pay
up
back
for
in
a
lifetime?
lifetime in prison with no
No,
parole,
but-
asshole.
But this is a not for profit, so technically you're going to be out of pocket then.
I ain't gonna be out of shit because
Why
you're gonna
the-
be working for the rest of your human
Why
life.
does IFI's brand of
making as much profit as
libertarianism
you can
sound so
before you die.
authoritarian?
I know. You're kind of dancing around the question that I'm
I thought
asking
you
here.
didn't-
So again,
you
I'll
didn't
just
have-
ask you the
I ain't
question
bouncing
again.
around shit. I'm talking to 3 people at the same time.
Oh, here we go. So just talk to
I
me
got-
one on one then, I-Fi. So
got one-
again,
I
if
got one real
you
question.
steal more than you could pay back in a lifetime, what is the government going to do about that? How are you ever going to pay that back?
Lifetime
It's not that
without
complicated, I get it.
parole.
Yeah.
Which English word do you not understand? Lifetime sentence without parole.
Right, but the idea is you want to make that person pay back.
You're
the
going to
amount
pay
that
back
they
as much as
stole.
you can. Even if you can't pay it all back, you're going to pay 90% of it back before you die.
That's all I needed was a fucking straight answer. Thank
you
you very
go.
much, Guy.
Sorry, I'm
You
gay.
just
I
shot
can't give
yourself
straight
in the
answers.
foot. You removed any incentive anyone has to cooperate with the repayment plan.
I'll
They'll
explain
be
it
like,
later in the
"Fuck
after
you."
party.
And you'll be
Later-
like, "Now I'm IFI."
Same.
They would never
I-Fi, you
work
can
at
hop
that
back
point.
in line. There's not many back there right now.
Okay, that's fine.
I knew tonight was going to be a slow night, but yeah. I love you, I-Fi. Thanks for having
Okay,
on.
bye.
Night. Oh, yeah.
By
All
slow,
right.
you mean iFi has Down syndrome, right?
Yes.
All
Extreme.
right, the simping tomato.
What's your take?
Well, I'm here to engage with the question directly, and the answer is yes. We are funneling people into prison for profit, and the question is why and how is that structure designed so that we can fix the problem? And I mean, the United States, on all objective metrics, incarcerates more people than any other country in the world. We have laws for so many ridiculous things, and those laws are made by the government, not by the prisons. The prisons filled with government workers and not private workers. The structures that we have in place are set up by the government, not the people profiting. The people profiting are leeches that are prevalent throughout many other industries other than the prison system, where there is a public-private partnership in place that creates a system where people's pockets are lined who are political allies of people with power. And,
I'm gonna cut you off a little bit just because that's one thing I disagree with. I agree with this to some point, but you have to consider also private prisons do have lobbyists, so they do have some impact as far as what laws get made or how they're conformed.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, do you know why Washington D.C. is located where it is?
Why don't you tell me?
Because George Washington owned the land right beside it, and he wanted his property value to go up. There's been
Cool
cronyism
story.
and corruption in this country since the founding. It's part of.
How can you
human
know
nature.
that? How can you know that?
Because I read history books.
Yeah, but did he say that? Did he openly say that?
Oh
and
no,
say
no,
that
no!
at the time?
You're right. You're right. It just happened to be placed right beside his property, increasing its value. That was
Well, why couldn't that happen? You're making it sound like
exactly.
that's
Why
an
could that-
impossibility. I'm like,
Yeah, like all the other places it could have gone, just right beside the most powerful person in the country's property. Yeah, that's okay.
yeah, but
you're
just to inflate his property value, to me, that seems like a bit of a leap.
right. Yeah. I'll grant that. It is.
Does this have to do anything with the topic?
Yeah, I am.
No,
That's on
I'm just
topic.
genuinely curious.
That's on topic because it's related to cronyism and human nature. And when you have a very large central government, you have a drastic increase in cronyism. That's why there were so many canals built in the 1800s, because
Can
politically.
you prove that by speculating?
No, I'm not speculating. I'm stating historical facts. Politically connected people throughout history have used their political connections to gain money, and the prison system is just part of that. It's an incestuous relationship. And the problem isn't that there are people that are profiting. The problem is that the government system that we have is set up to reward that behavior, because people who get the money funnel it back to politicians and make sure that those politicians' pockets get lined when it comes re-election time. It's an incestuous problem throughout the entire government, not just all the way down to the city level. If you go to local city council meetings, you'll see that certain ordinances are passed in specific ways to benefit specific, well-connected political people. And it's a
Do you have a
systemic
solution?
problem. Yeah, from my perspective, the solution is not to get rid of private ownership and private means of doing things. It's to reduce the size of the government so that there's less opportunity for them to take money from people and give it to other people for political favors.
So,
Libertarians solve this.
No, just a reduction in the size of. How about we don't do something crazy like libertarianism? We just say, you know what, maybe the government shouldn't necessarily be so large so as to have the power to give money to their friends.
that's libertarianism.
Well, no, it's just reducing the size of government.
That's
That also
libertarianism.
doesn't sound like you've got a solution there, because your solution is let's just reduce the size of government, which again, written on paper, it sounds good, but it's like can you be any more specific than just reduce the size of government as a solution? Because that's so vague to really
Well,
work
it's not.
with
It's
there.
not vague. It's super simple. You just
Okay, so we'll just reduce
budget.
one department down, the government's
No,
reduced.
you just.
Do you know what I
You
mean?
want-
It is vague. You need to be slightly more specific, man.
Oh, okay.
You want less policies?
Yeah. Well, less
Exactly.
laws. Yeah. Less laws. Smaller political jurisdictions.
Legalize drugs.
No, I don't care about that. That's a red herring unrelated to this. If someone wants to be a
No,
degenerate,
that's actually exactly related to the topic.
What? No, okay. If you have smaller political jurisdictions within those, some of those political jurisdictions would allow for people to behave degenerately, and others would not. And that would solve that problem because people could freely move between those political jurisdictions and choose their own adventure. They would be free to
sounds
choose
like
what kind of life they want.
It sounds like you're kind of agreeing with me without agreeing with me.
Would that not create more division then? Because you would
Well,
have.
yeah. So is it more natural to have a giant government where there is people who disagree with one another forced to live under rules that they don't agree with, or for people to live freely in an area where they're living the way that they want to live? Is more division necessarily a bad thing? Was it a bad thing when the Soviet Union fell apart and the bloc states that were a member of the Soviet Union all separated and broke apart? Was that worse than having the entire Soviet Union together?
I'm not saying it was worse or better. I just asked, in your eyes, would that not create more division?
Yeah, and I answer stuff with questions. I apologize.
Oh yeah, you don't answer it directly. You answer it with
Yeah.
more questions. Fair enough. Yeah, no, that's easy for me to work with.
But I don't have much else to say on this topic because it really is just as simple as reducing the power, size, and scope. But what we have now is a fascist system of government, and if it were just simply not fascist, then that would work. Because when you have the public-private partnerships, that's one of the main features of fascism. And it was well known prior to that mustache guy that was a main feature of fascism. But now we conflate fascism with the mustache guy. But there are other features of fascism. There are other features of fascism that exist that were well known and documented in the 1930s and 1920s that we practice today in the United States.
So, do you have any actual thoughts on the actual topic, or do you
Yeah.
just okay?
Well, yeah, my thought on the topic. I answered it directly to start with. My first thought was, yeah, we do this. It's terrible. It's
Okay, so
awful.
how would you do it with the prison industry? Would you?
Do you agree with the last guy where you want not for profit prisons? Not
No,
run by the government?
that's stupid. It doesn't get rid of the problems. You still have the massive government there, and you're still going to have
No,
the
they're
same.
not- they're not
Where
government
are
run.
government are you going to cut then? Like to address
all of it. All of it.
I want you to address the prison problem.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
part of the prison problem are you cutting?
Well, if you reduce the number of laws and stop incarcerating people at an inhumane level, and you simultaneously reduce the size of government, you won't have as many people being put into these prisons.
Let's just do the legal part of it. I know that you want smaller government. What laws are you cutting?
Well, I don't know. All the ones that have anything to do with anything that isn't protecting someone's life and liberty and property, which is a whole lot of them. But we don't need zoning laws.
What
There's a
about
whole lot of
nonviolent
stuff.
crimes?
Nobody's going to prison for violating a zoning law.
All the tax laws need to
Tax
go away.
laws. Yeah, I can agree.
None of those go to jail either. But how about nonviolent
Well, people
crimes?
go to jail for tax laws. People go to jail.
People go to jail for tax stuff. Yeah, for sure. What about conditions of release? Probation violation, parole violation, bond
Well,
violation.
If you release somebody from prison and they break the law, why'd you release them from prison? They obviously didn't get rehabilitated. The point of prison isn't just to keep people there for an arbitrary period of time. It's to rehabilitate them and release them back into society so that they're functional human beings.
You know
Our
that's
system
not-
is really broken because
You
we
don't
don't
think
do
that that's what it's actually for, do you?
No, that is what it's supposed to do. That is not what it does. It is supposed to rehabilitate people, and that's part of the broken nature of the system.
Would you be happy with a prison system that was focused on rehabilitation? Because the way that you rehabilitate somebody is contrary to the way you punish somebody.
Yeah. I mean, that would be much. But wouldn't it be better if we didn't have to pay for people to be locked
Well,
up?
I think so. I would much rather have a rehabilitatory system than a punitive one. But I also am more down with degeneracy than most people, that I interact with on here.
Yeah. Well,
which is
I mean,
weird. I'm one of the more degenerate people on the internet in my circles. Huh.
I'll pose a interesting question before you to go. Do you think there's like a line we can cross? Is there a crime so bad that you can't be reformed, so to speak?
Absolutely.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
Anything to do with children, you don't deserve to walk another day on this planet.
yeah, that's a tough question because everybody has the capacity for change, no matter how heinous their history. So
I don't know. I think that there are some people that they have something wrong with them, and if you have the
Yeah.
capacity to do something once, I don't know that there's something wrong with you, and you can't be trusted again.
and evil does exist. I agree.
And also, I thought of a non-violent crime that I really don't like that I think you should go to, be punished for, which is stealing. So even if you don't hurt someone physically, but if you like rob their house, I feel like that's really, 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 really bad, and I don't like that at all. What do you guys think? Jail time?
Yep, 100%. Have your hands cut off.
That's a good
I
deterrent.
wouldn't go that far, but
Thank you.
Well,
for
I
having me.
genuinely would. I think that a lot of crimes, the punishments are far too light for them. I think if someone were to steal and someone were to cut their fucking hand off, you wouldn't see as many people fucking stealing.
Capital
You know,
punishment.
if anyone fucked with children and they were publicly executed, you would see the numbers drop pretty fucking quickly.
I'm okay with the capital punishment for child predators. It just
Yeah.
feels right to
Yeah.
me for some
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
I honestly think we should bring back public executions. I think people should really need, I'm not joking at all. I think
was
this is
having
the
this
real thing that we need to
conversation
do. Yeah.
with someone the other day saying the same thing. I'm like, man, if we saw public hangings, we probably wouldn't be messing around so much.
Exactly. You see that shit and you're like, oh, what did he do? Oh, he stole a lemon.
Yeah, we hide our prisoners.
Well, I'm not going to steal any fucking
We
thing in
keep
my
the
life.
prisons like far away. They're kind of like hidden, tucked away. Nobody wants to see it. It's like out of sight, out of mind. Where it's like if you brought that stuff up to the front line, I think a lot more people would be a little more self-aware of what they're doing and what the true consequences are. So
Yeah, but you'd
And-
also have a bigger threat of to worry about if you could report somebody for something and then get their hand chopped off. Like, do you always want to be looking over your shoulder that way?
I don't know. We probably
Thank you
wouldn't.
for having
well,
me on, Sarah. I came here to simp for you. So
Oh, well, thank you. Simp troopers are allowed, but simping is not. But either way, you stayed on topic and didn't, simp or
You don't
anything.
allow simps? Are you kidding?
Simp
Speaking of-
troopers.
What's a simp trooper?
Simp troopers, they deploy straight to here magically. It's an army.
Well, speaking of, where's Don Juan?
I don't know, but I have a gift for all of you. And again, Carrie has been warned if he goes off topic or says
Oh,
anything
fuck this.
off the rocker,
So
I'm just going to
Colleen.
immediately remove him from stage.
I'll leave before he
so
does. Trust me.
we'll leave it at that. And that is his warning. There are no more outside of that.
What up, homie?
Makes you thankful there's a timer.
hey, Spicoli, before you start ranting, I was just doing some research on whether like having like worse punishments actually leads to less crime. Because I was honestly curious, and it seemed like the results are kind of mixed. There's some stats that say having certainty that you'll be caught for the crime, is a better result. And there's also been just like the 3 strikes rule that have been used for mixed results. So it's interesting that it's not at least definitive whether that leads to better results.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Singapore has like ridiculously tough things. Like, I'm pretty sure you can get publicly whipped for things like graffiti and shit like that. People don't fuck about there whatsoever.
What is the standard
Well,
of?
if you
Is
spit on the
the
street, if you spit gum out on the street in Singapore, you can get in trouble. I'm telling you.
Outstanding.
It's a very unpleasant place
Outstanding.
to live.
If
Why
you're
is that
caught with the
unpleasant?
joint- If you're caught with the
You want
joint
somebody to come
in-
whip you if you spit your gum
India,
out?
if
Well,
you-
yes,
I don't
yes,
do
because I
gum.
wouldn't fucking do that because it's fucking disgusting.
You don't spit your gum out on the street?
I don't.
No,
bro,
I
don't
fucking do
chew-
not.
I don't.
I
chew-
do.
I
I'm gonna
don't
spit
chew
extra
gum.
gum out for
Yeah,
you.
and that's
In
why
fact,
I would be happy to see you get
I'm gonna,
fucking
take, I'm
whipped
gonna take my butt buckets and I'm gonna dump them out the windows when I drive now because of you. I'm gonna,
again, and I would be happy to see you get whipped for that. You know, because
In
like, you
India,
do
if
it with
you're
such
caught with-
disregard that I'm just like, yeah, that seems fair to me. You don't care, I do care. You get whipped,
and see,
then
I would
suddenly you
prefer to
do
have
care.
people like you
Well,
whipped who want to
Leroy,
impose
I'm
on other
glad
people's
you
lives.
care. I'm
What's that say
glad you
again,
care,
Phil?
Leroy. You
Sorry,
can
Flo.
care on my
I was
behalf,
just-
Leroy.
No, sorry, someone's
Yeah,
talking over you. Flo, could you say that again?
Sarah,
Go
is
ahead,
it my
Chloe.
turn to talk or is it Leroy's?
It's yours.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. First of all, if you're talking about crowding in prisons and stuff, I've got a very simple solution for that. And the sheriffs out here really don't give a shit. If a crime is committed against me in self-defense, I'll just shoot the motherfucker. So it cuts down on taxpayer costs and stuff. And the cops out here, believe it or not, they don't really care about that kind of shit. You know, like my
Yeah, you
neighbor
say
shot
that, but wait
somebody
till you
not
hear
long
this
ago,
get next to you in
and
court.
nothing happened. Out here, they're pretty liberal. Now, so that cuts down on the prison population. Now, let me tell you why I love this conversation, Sarah, because people are freely talking about how they feel about our country and our government. But it's about this type of conversation should have taken place 50 years ago when there was still hope for our country. At this point, we're $35 trillion in debt. The interest alone on the debt is $1 trillion each year, and we have a deficit each year of like $1 trillion.
You don't really want to
So-
talk about the topic, do you?
Look, please, I didn't interrupt you. So the reality is, whether the prisons are crowded or not, whether we have enough money for the schools or Social Security or anything else, the reality is this fucking country, and this is just reality, it's just math, you know, it's basically this country's going bankrupt. In other words, we're at the point now where with 35 trillion in debt, we're never going to be able to pay that back. So while it's nice to talk about, you know, a perfect utopian society, and the way you guys are talking about, you guys sound like the founding fathers, and you're going to build a new country.
We're just trying to
and it's gonna
solve
be a
one
perfect
problem
country.
here.
And you know what? Wait, hold on. I appreciate people that are optimistic like that and talk like that, but the reality is this empire is failing, just like Rome. Rome fell. The Ottoman
What has this got to do
Empire
with the
fell.
topic, man? What has this got to do with the topic?
Well, here's the topic. The topic
It's
is,
just spurred every fucking time, man.
Mhm.
Please.
dude,
Well, people don't know Rome had private prisons, you know, before the fall.
well, let me go back to the prisons, okay?
Thank you.
Now,
The topic,
another
yes, well
problem.
done. Thank you.
okay,
Good idea.
okay. Another
It's
problem with
not,
the prison
listen, he's
system
not
is-
going in the gossip crazy route, so I'm not upset right now. He's at least in the
Yeah.
wheelhouse.
Yeah, so calm down, Leroy. But another problem with the prisons
so
is,
worked up,
and then I'm
sorry.
going to go after this. Here's another problem with the prisons. God forbid Leroy was to get arrested for something in America. What he's going to do is he's not going to want to be in a male prison, so he's going to want to identify as a female and get put into a prison female
He already does.
because he's not tough enough to be in a male prison. So that takes more taxpayer money when you have to put a male into a female prison because there's more costs involved. So Leroy, if
already
you ever
told
do
that.
get in trouble in America, please stick to a male prison and don't cope out and, you know, pretend you're a cross-dresser or a
So,
transvestite.
Goli, this is
or
a
trans
weird
woman.
angle to just take a dig at me. You could just call me a fucking cunt to my face. Like, I'm right fucking here. I can call you a fucking geriatric old fuck. Just call me a cunt to my
I
face.
wouldn't
You don't need to
call
go
you
for
that.
this long-winded fucking route
think
to
you're
try and have a jab
trans.
at me. Just have a fucking jab at me. You fucking old cunt.
I think you're a trans woman on the down low. I think you have low T level. And I'll tell you the reason
I'm
I
away.
think that.
Thank you very much for having me,
Because,
Sarah.
like,
I
Dave
fucking knew
Dorff,
Goli was just going to be a
you
fucking
know what?
spastic.
Flo,
Usual.
Flo,
Nice speaking to you.
Progress.
Spastic.
We'll just do that. Oh, fuck. Leroy. All right, we'll add you up.
Did Leroy just rage quit?
He just rage quit. Here,
Oh my
Spicoli,
God.
finish your thoughts.
All right, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get in a rage quit, but I just want to say,
Yeah, I mean,
Sarah,
I'm impressed with
thanks for
that.
having me on. Let's get the likes up, the subs up. And look, when guys rage quit on me, it just proves that there's some truth to what I'm saying, you know? I mean, I think he's, you know, look,
Not
I
all
love
Though,
trans
it does
women,
prove that you
I
can
love
speak
gay
longer than anyone
people.
else, though.
you know, but there was no need for him to rage quit just because I insinuated that he might want to be in a female prison. You know, I would probably want to be in a female prison too if I was Wait, you think I'd want to be with a bunch of dudes? I would go into a female prison myself so that I could fucking fuck some of those.
All right. Bye, Spicoli.
Anyway,
We'll see you
Sarah.
next time.
Wait. Get the likes up.
Yeah, I'm not even going to give him the time. Grande Admiral Sasquatch.
Yeah, babe, what's up? I've been a naughty
Would you like to remain on the panel and fulfill Leroy's position?
Sure. I want to be clear about. I want to bring back public floggings. I think the stockade would be a very good place to start with these types of things. We don't shame people nearly enough publicly. Just putting your name in the paper is not enough. No one reads the paper. I think these things possibly should be televised or possibly put on a 24-hour live stream. And we might even be able to do some donation capital on throwing different types of fruit at the people in the stockades. You could definitely
sell Facebook groups, the inmate roster Facebook groups.
What was it?
What kind of crime are we talking? We're not talking jaywalking, right?
But yeah, felonies. I'm talking felonies over here. Like there are some felonies that are felonious, that are nonviolent type crimes where you could just stick somebody out on the town square for 72 hours and they'd be really upset with their life, I want to do that again. But then you have other things where people have like murked 9 or 10 folks in a situation. You just go ahead and take that out of the population. That's wood chipper work.
Wood chipper work, I like that.
I love that the conversation has steered into way more punitive than it's been. So that's interesting to see.
That's just me, bro.
What's up, people? Yeah. Well, not just you. Spicoli and everyone else too.
I disagree with the wood chipper idea unless I'm driving the wood chipper, right? Like I want that power for myself, but not for anybody else.
I reserve wood chippers for things like anything involving a child.
Right, but I don't want anybody else to have the keys to the wood chipper because I don't trust their discernment. I only trust them.
I just want to watch you, sick screwball.
I just want to make the decisions. Like if we're gonna have to wood chip people, then I'll be in charge of the wood chipper.
Usually, I like to control things. But I'm okay if you control the wood chipper.
All right, thank you.
I don't really have
a problem with me for wood chipper.
I'll vote for you for wood chipper control. I mean, you're definitely going to get me out of there, right?
Huh?
Keep in mind whatever system we have, like people are going to get wrongly accused or wrongly sentenced at least occasionally. So we got to be okay with a couple people
pretty regularly.
Wrongly chipped.
Pretty regularly. Yeah. That's why I want to be in charge of the wood chipper.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I trust your
because
judgment.
Really, I only want to chip up people that I want to chip up.
Mm-hmm. I feel like there would really need to be a set of proofs. Like if it meets a certain requirement of proof.
I mean, it's capital punishment by another name. I mean, it's no different.
I was going to ask that because we're talking about wood chipper, but who here is pro capital punishment?
I
am. Yeah.
I'm against it primarily because I don't think that we're very good at all, or even interested in finding out who's guilty. We just want a verdict. The system. By we, I mean the system.
I
mean
the state, like the prosecutor wants a verdict, right? Like
right.
your defendant is
the law. The cops want one, so they're going to go for the easiest.
That's why I say the state in general. Like the state in general wants to get a conviction, right? That's their job.
Every single case.
Good job to do.
Just based on all the people that are on death row and then get out before their death sentence, based on like evidence presented later, it's definitely concerning. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we were talking.
So how do you guys?
I just.
How do you guys feel?
Okay,
go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead because there's a
Hornet. You're in the hot seat.
Okay. Yeah. So how do you guys feel about private prisons essentially selecting for nonviolent offenders and being more into the rehabilitation than the federal prison is?
I don't understand the question.
Well, private prisons typically have more like programs for like when you get out of jail. So like they have like courses or whatever that you take in jail. And when they're selecting for convicts, they're usually selecting for non-violent offenders, because the security costs are going to be way higher if you have a violent offender, right? So that just makes business sense to do. But do you think we should do that at a larger scale? Just push it towards like have non-violent offenders go to private prisons and like have violent offenders move into the federal zone?
Stop
Or
throwing non-violent offenders in prison.
I agree. I don't think a nonviolent offense should be rated the same way as a violent offense when you're talking about two opposite ends of the spectrum of like the drug war. I mean, the dude on the street carrying 4 ounces is not the same as the kingpin downtown in freaking downtown New York.
And they're both different than the guy that's stabbing you, right? So
yes, that's true.
Even
yeah,
non-violent.
but then how do you feel about like white collar crimes then? Like someone that like essentially could pull a rug pull and like steal billions of dollars in like a go.
yeah, they can go to prison too. Victim
Yeah.
crimes with a victim. If there's a victim involved,
That's a non-violent offense, right?
yeah, I know.
That's what I'm saying.
I was just
But it may drive other men to violence. That's the thing, is when you take everything from a man, you leave nowhere.
I
for
don't
him.
even like that argument at all. I just used violence as the standard because it's literally the word that was right in the sentence before I responded. But I would say victims is actually the thank you.
Right, because like robbery is
Okay,
not.
so
They're still a victim.
so if a crime has like a victim to it, you would convict that at a higher rate than not having a victim towards it,
I
right?
would make all victimless crimes not crimes anymore. There'd be nobody in jail for drugs, prostitution, release violations, any of that shit.
Taxes.
Taxes, right? Yep.
I see why you're making a difference there, but shouldn't these all be given like kind of the reform action? Do we think there's
Like
a
how would
difference
you
there? Like, should these-
ensure that? Yeah, like how do you convict and figure out like whether there's a victim or not?
Well, there's no victims in traffic crimes for the most part. There's no victims in most of your financial crimes for the most part, unless there are specific lists of victims involved in the loss of resources, right? So when you're talking tax dodging, that makes the federal government the victim, and they can't be a victim. But when you're talking about like embezzling money from a corporation, it gets a little bit fuzzier. But pretty much, if it doesn't involve,
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like where are these lines drawn?
Here's a good measure.
Essentially, like if we're gonna like move towards the system, like
if the cop has discretion to not arrest somebody and he won't get pushback, right? Then that's a pretty good line. If a cop decides that he's not going to arrest your rapist today because you're kind of a nice guy and he's feeling generous, somebody's going to be really pissed off about that, right? So that's a crime with a victim. But if he decides not to arrest somebody for having a bag of weed, nobody cares at all.
But I just want to acknowledge that sometimes I feel like people will get thrown in jail if there's no one out there who gives a shit about them, and that sucks. So, because it's proven that if like people have an advocate, it will like psychologically have an impact. Or if there's like a perception that they're going to be difficult to deal with in the court, they'll consider that. So we should still fight for the people who like have nobody to fight for them. I don't know how to go about that.
No,
though.
I mean, I was using the mental exercise as a test for when there's a victim involved. I don't think that should be literally applied, in action. But I think that when you're considering, is this crime a victimless crime? That's a good question to ask. If a cop decided not to arrest somebody, who's going to be outraged by it?
Yeah, like there's been times when like a drunk driver who it resulted in death when normally they might go to jail for a really long time. There is some like legal impact from them having a lot of money and a really great lawyer where she's kind of like off the hook and goes to the college graduation and stuff. So people were pissed and people are like, we don't want her showing up at the graduation because it's disgusting that there's no consequence for what she did.
Mm-hmm.
So
This might be a dumb question, but like, how many victimless crimes are there really? Unless you mean like
your entire
stealing from a
code.
corporation.
All
your
whole
entire traffic code. Everything,
Okay, so
almost
drunk
everything.
driving gets to be one of those things where I don't know that I like, because a car can be a weapon too, and even if you actually don't, hit somebody, like you can do things with a car where it's just so reckless that I don't think it's victimless anymore. You get what I'm saying? Sort of like if I have a gun and I just start firing wildly,
I mean,
I might not
that
hit
that
anybody,
logic
but
can
it
be
doesn't
applied
make
to.
a big- huh? But that
I
was
was
still
saying that
not
logic can be
victimless
applied
in
to
my
like
mind.
drugs like weed, right? If it's
I knew
laced
that-
with something. Yeah.
Whatever you said probably wasn't important.
That it could be applied logically.
Oh yeah, it can. And there's always going to be some Karen who's going to be like, "Well, I care if they let people with weed go," but no, really, you know.
I think drugs is the best example, yeah, for victimless crime where you really should not go to jail.
Drugs are a fantastic example.
That's a commerce crime, really.
It's there's a massive amount of people. There's the biggest number of people in prison, I believe, is for drug crime. And if you look at the actual crime itself, it is a
Yeah, it's
commerce
about
crime.
44%.
Yeah, and there's no reason like the drug laws.
No, I'm saying
when
it's about
considered-
44%. Yeah.
When considered with alcohol laws, right? Alcohol is legal. It's the worst drug of all. How the fuck does this make any sense at all? It doesn't. So. Mom
Well, it's
Tomato,
just a
what's
profit.
up?
Another dumb question. How much for problems with the private business would be addressed if we just legalized at least like the more normal drugs like weed,
Just decriminalize.
maybe a couple ones
would
nearby
eliminate
that.
a large portion. I mean, you're talking about a good 30% if you simply decriminalize the general drugs that are in general use.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think, at least from what I've observed, it doesn't seem like really anybody's going to prison for just weed anymore, even in any state. I'm in Kansas, right? It's still illegal here. It's pretty conservative. I don't know if people go, but I do know if people are going to prison for weed if they're on probation.
Right. That's what I was referring to before. Is that people on probation? It's just like you can't even really live your life because you're just under the gun of these constant tests and phone calls, and I've just known a couple of people where I thought, man, they'd be better off in jail.
Got the little video. Have you ever seen those little video call boxes with a monitor and a straw sticking out the top so they can call you randomly on house arrest, and then you got to blow into the straws for random breathalyzers? It's crazy.
Hornet, do you want to say goodbye for now? And you could always hop back in line too if you want.
Yes. Yeah. I'll probably hop on for the open panel, but yeah. Thanks for having me.
Mhm.
Have a good night,
Absolutely.
everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
And iFi's coming back up, and Robot Glock coming in with a 1488, 13% of federal prison inmates serving sentences for violent crimes, 63% of state prison inmates serving time for violent crimes. Federal prisons are mostly non-violent offenders, like the white collar crimes, or. Well, thank you, Robert Glock. I appreciate
Probably
that.
distribution rings. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
13% is so low, guys. 13% is for violent crime.
So the people that I know who have gone to federal prison, it has been like RICO shit, where they're part of a case, part of a big case, right? Where a big group of people. I know one dude who did 10 years in prison he was charged with inciting a riot. Really, he just wouldn't testify, and somehow they hit him with inciting riot. He did 10 years, bedtime.
They literally read him the riot act.
I wanted to bring something up, but I don't want to get in the way of iFi's 10 minutes. So I just have
Oh,
to
you got
Oh,
time. Don't worry,
I
sweetheart.
won't start his timer until he starts yip yapping, so you're good.
Yippee!
Well, you were talking about something before you let the panelists on. I forgot why I was reminded of this, but I heard about how people were framed for reasons to be thrown into jail just so that then they can be put into rehabs, and then they get put into this whole cycle. Their insurance is paying for rehab after rehab after rehab after rehab. So I've actually heard of these rehab companies being corrupt and screwing over people in order to get them into a position where they'll go into rehab. Has anyone here heard of that?
Yes, I've heard of that. There's this halfway house syndicate that takes place on the East Coast. I don't know exactly how far it goes, but it's not so much that they're framing people; it's that they are specifically targeting people that they know already have drug problems, and then putting them in unwinnable situations where they owe the state money, they owe the halfway house money, they owe their boss money, and they're pretty much working slave wages on some job that they'll never get out of because they'll never get out from under this freaking probationary or parole period. That
was iPi's idea.
All good ideas are my idea.
Seems to be working very well.
By the way, Sarah, this is one of my favorite sleepy time streams. It has been doing wonders for my narcolepsy. Anyways, and insomnia. You cured them all. Anyways, so we covered the profit part. So let's talk about the punishment portion. I heard a whole lot of kumbaya bullshit from this panel about how, we should not hurt people's feelings and stuff like that. The reason why we're putting people in prison is because
I would put you in the wood chipper.
All right. The reason why we're putting people in prison is for punishment. So again, it's not just like a timeout or, like a slap on the wrist. It's like they did some heinous shit that, they
they're not reformed.
That's not the reason. It's not necessarily reform. Sometimes it's just to separate people from the population they can harm.
We all agree with you. Yeah.
Well, you have mental asylums for that. You don't put them in prison,
which is worse.
Or at least we used to have mental asylums until the government shut them down. But I think we're all ANCAPs
now
on
we
this
have prisons,
panel, so it doesn't really need to be debated.
Well,
hurting feelings because you were accusing everyone of saying kumbaya and being a
yeah. We're talking about like all this, recuperation, rehabilitation, and making sure their stay is nice and comfortable, and it's again, that was before they got to prison. So like if they were headed down the wrong road, and we could intervene before they started doing bad shit. That's what rehabilitation is for, or like, those types of programs.
But I find you think the system is working?
Go ahead.
You want to reform somebody before the problems occurred?
No, I think you guys are overlapping prison with rehabilitation. You're like saying, like, just because they're in prison, they're still people and got feelings. But and in the same breath, y'all are for capital punishment and shit, which is all fucked up. But anyways,
you thought I was saying that. I was not talking about their feelings.
He's strawmanning all of us right now.
I don't know. It's pretty accurate. Yeah. Yes.
I thought 5 minutes. I thought you want to minority report people? Is that what you're kind of saying?
Yeah. We want to predict the future.
Less and less libertarian by the second.
No, I'm saying like before they go full, like serial killer or whatever, when they already start showing signs of like, sociopathy and stuff like that, then that's where you can start the rehabilitation programs. Not wait until there's piles of bodies and then try to figure out a life sentence that will solve
figuring out if somebody has psychopathy before.
No, he wants to put this in the schools, don't you? You want to put this in the schools?
There might be some sort of like smart thinking programs where we don't just wait for the police and judges to like raise our children.
He does want pre-crime. This is a
he's wanting to use psychological tests to determine whether or not someone is likely.
I want to use a crystal ball and
punish those people for having those psychological markers, even though they've never actually committed a crime.
He is kind of needing. I want to pose this question to everyone here. I do agree. There's actually a lot of problems with like the judge system right now. I think there's some research that says like if a judge is nearby lunch and hasn't eaten, they're more likely to give harsher sentences. So the people we really expect to be unbiased are really not that. Could you see a future in the world where we have AI judges that are more impartial? I agree. It sounds kind of terrifying, but you can never see that actually happening.
That's soulless. That's literally a thing with no conscience. It would do the mathematical pragmatism.
An AI judge versus a human judge.
God, no.
You definitely don't want a Google judge in your lawsuit against Google, because you might not win that case. Just saying. But but no one would ever use bad code in AI. Humans would never do that. Anyways, back to the punishment thing again. So I touched on it briefly that the punishment should be severe and deterrent to any other potential crime.
Do you think you would
committing
pass
people?
your pre-crime test?
I'm not talking about pre-crime anymore. I'm talking about after the crime. So after they've committed the crime,
Can we go back to pre-crime though? I'm wondering if you think you would pass your own
let's go to
standards.
after crime. Let's go to after crime. So when people know that when you go to jail, you get an Xbox and like a free gym and 3 squares a day and a place to live, and especially if you were homeless before and you were hungry, that sounds like an upgrade. So if anything, you would go commit a crime just to have those
trying
things
to get to prison.
Well, the stats show the opposite. We have way more of a problem with recidivism than like other countries where they have nicer prisons. So why do you think that is?
Stats. I don't care about your stats. We're just talking about ideas.
You only care about your feelings. I understand.
No, these aren't feelings.
Statistics. He wants his own feelings. This is absolutely your feels.
So that was the point I was trying to get at, Rose. Is I understand that you want to be as humane as possible to.
No,
these
that's
prisoners.
not what I want. I'm just saying that's one of their concerns, that are the factors that they look at as a business. They're coming at it like a corporation. I was trying to explain the different facets of why things are corrupt and why they would be funneling people for a profit and how that's allowed to occur. I'm not saying that I'm advocating for it. I'm just seeing that.
Oh, I thought you were one of those that wants more soft cushions and stuff in the.
No, I think that we need to make jail not as enjoyable as the outside world, so that people don't want to stay in there as career criminals.
Oh, sorry, I called you out. I thought you were the one that said that. Anyways, it sounded like generally most of the panel were either wood chipper or free gangs and free Xboxes or whatever. They couldn't really pick which side they were going with.
Really
Anyways,
wood chipper.
How about wood chipper gangs? Would that work? Anyways,
Only once.
Yeah, works
Nobody's
every
trying to
time.
get a 10-piece though. Some people do petty crime to get a few nights in jail. Nobody's looking for 15, for 10 to 15. Nobody's trying to go to prison.
Well, some homeless people are, but
No,
it
they're
depends
not.
on their environment. But
There's a sad situation that I saw recently where I actually know her name. Her name is Erica, and there's this coffee shop in the French Quarter, and she's a normal human being who's homeless, and but every now and then she's clearly it's not drugs. She's crazy. She will start screaming bloody
She's
murder.
not a normal human being. Gotcha.
Okay, well, I'm saying that she sometimes acts small, but she clearly
You
has a
Probably
illness.
like her too. I mean, I'm not throwing shade.
She's disrupting things. She's just making the whole environment hell, and there's really nothing to do but call the cops. And I watched them just throw her into the car because it's really hard to control her, even though she's really skinny and has a lot of energy. She has a lot of energy. So they say usually they take her to the hospital and she calms down and then she's released again. But I just don't know what to do about people like that, because they don't belong in jail, but they can't be making life a living nightmare for everyone on the street. So in that situation, I wish there was a special place where they can go, like an insane asylum.
You understand that those were worse for people generally than prisons.
What was that?
Asylums were generally worse places to be than prisons.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying, I don't know what to do about that. I mean, it doesn't seem like there's any good solution.
Wish there was a happy little farm we could send them all off to, and
send them to Detroit.
That's the thing, is that there is a happy little farm we can send them off to. It's just an insane asylum where they're forced to work in the fields.
Right.
Next to the
have
machine.
medical procedures done on them to test them out, shit like that.
Send them to Detroit or some
Lobotomies.
other blue city. Deport them to a blue city. There's your answer, Rose. That's what we should do with them.
I think we need a foster care system where people can, get
Okay,
to
so
be.
you're going to
Great
insert
for
a
children.
felon into my house. That's your plan, is to make me take care of a felon.
And what's happier than a
I'll
foster
take care of you the
family?
same way I nobody yeller.
I want to get back to criminals, but I do think we're touching on something interesting. That
I'm right
I think
here.
it's like a third pillar about this, where is the mental health aspect, because
True.
that's definitely not getting addressed in our criminal justice
It
system.
is
It's a
completely
huge issue
non-fiction.
today. Yeah, there's a lot of people that have issues that maybe they shouldn't end up in prison. They maybe should go somewhere else, but they end up there because our system's not really addressed to deal with any of those issues.
Also, largely abused because a lot of people know you can game the system by pleading insane and get a lesser sentence.
It's really not as easy as you're making it sound. Not at all.
Okay.
You have to demonstrate that you did not try to conceal the crime. That almost nobody does that.
Awkward silence.
So I'm about to fall asleep.
That's a victory silence. That's a victory silence. Don't end it.
Pretty much. I mean, so I was wondering, what were the net benefit to having the various asylums that were there during the turn of the century? Because they were pretty much phased out starting at the beginning of the 20th century. For some strange reason, the huge governmental apparatus moved away from dealing with mental illness over to punitive caging.
It's cheaper to let the prisons handle them.
Well, to give you the actual answer, I think they went on a favor because a lot of the rich people were just kind of using them to like hide their relatives and just kind of not talk to them ever again, kind of abandon them. Now they're getting way more humane treatment. Sorry, go ahead, Flo.
I agree with you. I think that the problem with asylums is that they were just prisons without due process.
It's for rich people to get rid of people they disagree with. It's just start an asylum.
We would all be in asylums if they still had them.
You're not wrong.
Yourself, Looney.
You're the one that might still be free. You'd probably still be free, and you probably wouldn't be associating with us because we'd all be in there.
You know what's funny is I was thinking about this today about I'll pause your timer. But I was thinking about this today in terms of everybody that's on YouTube. I'm like, we've all had to have some type of crazy, obnoxious trauma or scary life experiences to all be here.
I blame Flow State mainly.
I really thought about every person I've talked to and their backgrounds and their lifestyles. I'm like, we're all fucked up. Every single one of us is
absolutely
fucked up.
I believe that YouTube is often a substitute for drug use. Like people who get clean end up on YouTube for that little bit of dopamine hit from the validation of that one guy who watched your video. It was like, nice job. That's why I like being that one guy.
I was normal before I came to YouTube, but now I'm crazy. So I blame Flow State mainly and a little bit of Sarah. Anyways, I'll give you a little outro. It's all there, black and white. You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Bye. And just a kind reminder, I'm actually going to kick off the open panel a little bit earlier tonight, only because it is kind of a slow night. So what we'll do is we'll have Torsia finish off the final 10 minutes in the hot seat. And then we'll kick it right into open panel and we'll bring everybody that's backstage on and we'll go from there.
I want to change the
panel. It's all on you, Torsia. It's all on you now.
Right when I get in here, damn.
No pressure.
Well, now everybody's going to come on after that. So it's good. And then, you get to like finalize the hot seat. Hot seat for a hot lady. There you go.
Thank you so much. I don't know how to lead it. Am I supposed to lead this shit?
Well, you can start if you have something particular to engage with the panel on or on the topic, or maybe somebody here has like a really stupid perspective and you want to go after that. Basically, the hot seat is you get 10 minutes to, obviously you'll go longer because then we'll go into open panel anyways, but you get 10 minutes to engage in like your thought process and the panel has to deal with it.
Okay.
We're talking about mental health. I know you might have some comments on that. Maybe you can tie it your determinism.
I caught the last 10 minutes and it seemed like, if I'm not mistaken, you guys were talking about how asylums had really inhumane conditions. Somebody said that?
Yeah, well, several of us agreed with that point. I think Flow State pointed it out.
Okay. And then you guys were also saying that jails are the same way, or no?
Jails are worse than prisons. Asylums are worse than all of them, I think. And my issue with it is that it bypasses due process. When you break the law, there's
Hold on. I wanna take it a different way. Do you guys know why we got rid of asylums?
That's
like,
what we were wondering
20th
about.
That was my question.
If you
No,
had
please
to
don't.
guess, what do you
Transition.
think? What do you think it was?
They're abusive.
Money.
They were inhumane.
Okay.
Well, I think that the philanthropists that helped build and finance the asylums through the first part of the 20th century turned their more money to prisons because it was a more streamlined process. And regardless of whether the asylums functioned properly or not, the most violent of them ended up in prisons anyway because they were the only ones with the facilities to deal with the most violent recidivist criminals.
Well, asylums, particularly. Okay, I think I have a good idea of where we're at. Okay, asylums, we stopped funding them because we developed antipsychotic medications. So, with antipsychotic medications, they realized they could come up with these community-based models, which allow.
Right, you're
people
blaming
to
Big
be-
Pharma. I love it.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
I'm all about what you're laying down.
Hell yeah! I bet you all were like, "Oh fuck!" Like, God damn it! Because like,
No, I love it.
forgot
I'm
about
actually
it.
onto it. Finish that thought. Keep going. Take that to its conclusion. I think
so-
you're on the.
Yeah, so they developed antipsychotic medications, and for like most of the most, even the most severe mental illness, with proper medication, you can live very normal lives. Like in the most severe cases, as long as you stay on medication. So what they did was they got rid of the asylums, introduced the outpatient programs. That's what it's called, outpatient programs. But then what started to happen was that one of the big symptoms of some of the really severe mental health issues, like schizophrenia, for instance, one symptom, they call it anosognosia, and it's lack of insight. And so a lot of family members would try to get their loved ones into treatment, but they wouldn't know that they're sick. And this isn't like, sometimes you feel depressed and you're just like, I'm just not going to take meds. This is like some of the most severe cases, like running next door to their neighbor, but naked, asking for a gun, like really, really out there type shit. And what they realized is that they could no longer force medication humanely on anybody. So what happened was people would just end up in the street. Like nobody could take care of them. Because the family members are like, at what point do you kind of like stay involved? Because they're getting, I don't want to say hurt because most of them are nonviolent, but it's like for one person that decides not to take meds because they don't have the capacity to understand what's going on, the whole family suffers. So eventually it gets to a point, from personal experience, gets to a point where you have to cut ties in order for, do you want to have two people go insane? So then now we've been talking about trying to get more funding into these programs, but there's a huge moral dilemma where it's like, should people have the right to say no to medication if they don't know they're sick? It's like you can't just like force meds, right? If somebody doesn't want to take meds. It's like back then we kind of did the lobotomy shit, which was really fucked up.
I want to discuss the lobotomies because that was a really big in vogue kind of thing that went all the way up into like the mid 50s when suddenly it became an inhumane treatment. Nobody wanted to talk about it anymore.
So are you asking the like chicken before the egg kind of concept? Can they give consent to take medication or like essentially be given medication if they don't even have the capacity to give consent?
Yeah, it's kind of like if you like get like a dementia patient to sign off on their big estate. Is that okay?
Right.
Like,
right.
No, not really, but
well, isn't that where your concept of what is it? Like
determinism?
A third party. No, it's like a third party.
Oh, an advocate.
Yeah,
they have those now.
Advocate. Power of attorney.
Yeah.
And then that can be kind of like forced if it's that
almost impossible to get it in this country. And so the whole Britney thing, anybody that knows me, I get so triggered by this because they had that documentary and it was all like, it's so hard to get, or it's so easy to get into, so hard to get out of. Anybody who isn't a celebrity who has been in this situation knows that it's almost nearly impossible to obtain a power of attorney. I know people who are actually psychiatrists and lawyers in probate court who could not get guardianship. It's the same thing, but in another state. So it really begs the question. Like a lot of our prison systems today, and a lot of our prison systems are actually housing the mentally ill as is. They're not even offenders. We just don't know where to put them. Aside from that, a lot of the calls police get are majority mental health calls. We don't have this stuff go into the news, so the public isn't really.
Mental health is just a window dressing for what's really control. Mental illness isn't real illness. If you're alone on a desert island, your mental illness is not a problem to you. It will not kill you. Mental illness is about controlling people.
So that is it. Michael Foucault actually talked about how he believes prison systems were like ways to control people. But I would go further and say that actually good and evil and the concept of it, that's where you really control people. Because before, evil was ambiguous. It was about action. It wasn't actually about a person. It was about evil acts. And it was kind of like chaos and disorder. And when the church... I'm currently writing about it, but like during a time where there was some war and some issue going on with another religion, they decided to persecute that other religion and called them the evil person. So, like, long story short, without getting too much in the weeds.
Get in the weeds. That is a very based response.
I really like the weeds.
Yeah, that's based.
Yeah, it's so. Well, like, I guess I heard you guys talking about the Nordic models, and I'm all about that. But in order for us to even implement any of those rehabilitation sort of programs, I guess, if you will, and get rid of what we have, which is punishment, you would have to remove the concept of evil and good. And a lot of shit leaves with that. Praise and scolding goes away. So there's no more like... good job, and it's a whole thing. But
are you suggesting less
participation in the first place, right?
Wait, I'm sorry. Go ahead. What did you say?
I said the concept of good and evil is what got us thrown out of the Garden of Eden in the first place, isn't it?
I don't believe in good and evil. Some people say it comes from that. Some other people say that it was around before. It depends on who you talk to, honestly. But I would say, yeah, I'd say like theology is probably where I see it the most.
And I'm not Christian, but that's not actually my belief. But I do think that that's an interesting correlation there.
Yeah, but you know what's crazy is that it seems like people today, the Christians specifically, I'm sure in other religions, this is just the one I have personal experience with, they're like the only ones who are tackling the issue I brought up about the mentally ill, forced medication, housing, all of that. They're like the only group of people who actually have gotten money from the church and have started to fund these residential buildings, kind of like in the Nordic model, but in America. And so a lot of times, even when we talk about good and evil, it's like, well, shit. They're the ones kind of fixing it. The ones that lean a little bit more liberal.
Exploiting it?
Huh?
Do you feel like they're fixing it or like they're exploiting it? I don't know.
They're the only one. They're like the only ones fixing it. It's either that or jail. And like and the more liberal side says, hey, you shouldn't force meds. If Britney Spears doesn't want to take meds, fuck it. You shouldn't have to. And they see her life now, like. People who have been in this situation see Britney and we see that she's suffering, but people think, you know what, at least she gets to choose what she wants to do, and they don't think she's suffering. So,
well, I think the bigger issue is that once you can start forcing people to take meds, that slippery slope doesn't end. Yeah.
What do you mean?
If you can have court and force, if you can force people to take med, then all of a sudden, like, we've looked at big pharma, we all grew up with ADHD medication everywhere and all that stuff. Like, imagine what that leads to then.
So a lot of times when I hear this argument, it's probably, are you saying you don't believe in medication? Because
I'm saying I don't believe in allowing the authority to force medicate people.
Sure.
Yeah. Because it'll be abuse for sure. It'll be abuse for sure.
You're depriving someone of consent.
I kind of think that your parents, because it depends on, it gets complicated, but boys develop schizophrenia, which is a severe mental illness that affects thoughts, behavior, emotion, whatever. They develop it around 18, 19, 20. So sometimes I'm like, I wonder if there was a way that your parents could automatically get like a 3-year extension of like making decisions for you in the event that you become psychotic. They have advanced medical directives, but you have to know to sign that before you go psychotic. So
What if your
please
parents are
sign them.
mentally ill? What if your parents are mentally ill?
Open panel time.
Before we go into that, did anybody want to leave the panel? I don't know if anybody's tired or they're bored of, whatever. Because if so, now would be the time if you wanted to leave now. For any panelists, like this was the time I typically divvy up is between 9:15 to 11:15. If so, speak now or forever hold your peace, and then you just drop off later whenever you feel like. I will take that as a win. All right, time for dumpster fire open panel time. Although it is kind of a quiet night, so maybe it won't be quite as bad.
Yes, and I do want to extend my appreciation. I do think that Sarah has been an adequate moderator. I think that there's times where she needs to mind her own fucking business in this space, but she's been an adequate moderator, and I do appreciate her having me on her channel.
Listen, I love you, the Raging Tomato, but I would kill myself doing more Red Pill debates, okay?
The Raging Tomato, at least she is attempting, like, she's trying to be a comedian. She's trying to be funny.
That's hilarious.
Is that new,
I
or
love
have
your
you not
edits.
pay attention?
That one is new. I just made it for last week's show. And when Jim Bob came on, I was like, you know what? I need a different video between between me doing the one solo, then the panel comes on, I have the Kraken, and then I was like, I need dumpster fire. I need something that says I'm a dumpster fire. Because that's usually how open panels go on here. And so it gets pretty interesting. Ladies all at the top. Gentlemen.
Yeah,
all
I think
right.
you got
you're
about
bringing
right.
Spicoli
It's
back?
What's the process?
No. Spicoli, that was a timer, and he didn't even make it through the full time. So, but I wish Leroy didn't quit, knowing that.
I think that's hilarious.
Spicoli only had 2 minutes left, and it was like.
I take full blame for that. I called him a bitch, and he proved me right. So
You don't get credit for Spicoli's accomplishment.
no, Leroy, rage quit.
I know, that's Spicoli. Spicoli gets credit for that. You
Nah.
can't fucking take that shit. Get out of here with that.
Now that we have the open panel, I would love to kind of pose a question.
Yeah, it's.
Good luck.
I think a lot of us are all in agreement on a lot of this so far. I think this might kind of spice things up. I'd love to kind of open this up into a free will versus determinism kind of.
Well, that sounds
aspect.
shitty.
No, because I feel like it ties in directly to this. Because I'll make the correlation. I feel like if you are born a serial killer and you get raised like a serial killer, you're just going to be a serial killer. So I feel like this ties into the restorative justice versus punishment. Should that person be
That sounds
reformed
like
or should they be ultimately punished? No.
I want to clean up the dumpster fire right before the panel opened up. We had a panel full of ANCAPs, and then suddenly everybody's for government forced medicine. What the fuck,
Did you
guys?
not listen to
I don't know
any
about that.
distant? Two of us explicitly
Oh,
said
but
we're against it.
we
The
all
other two-
said we were against the idea
Yeah.
of forced medication.
Oh, it
Oh.
sounded awful.
I think I'm for it. I feel like
y'all were
if I have a
extending
son who gets
adult ages
schizophrenia,
and stuff and all kinds of fun things. So
I think there's a very small window where I think it's okay if it's your parents, but again, your parents can be shitty. But I just don't see them. I've seen some of the worst parents. I don't think they would go there trying to
I
just
do.
fuck them up.
Well, I mean, what
I've
if
known
your
some bad
parents are
parents.
mentally ill? What if both of them are SOV-CIT types that refuse to get you vaccines and
What if-
refuse to
what
have
if-
you associate with people?
That's some good parenting right there.
You'd be
What do you mean, no
surprised
guardians at
how that
all?
all goes away when somebody's child develops a severe mental illness.
But that's what I'm saying. What if
Yeah.
it doesn't? What if they're already mentally ill and already believe this madness and they're trapped in that cycle of, I don't have to abide by the government's whatever just because whatever.
Who's got the wind
don't
in their
think any-
background? Somebody's got wind going on. Or there's a lot of movement.
It might be the guy by the fire.
There we go.
That's not a
Whoever-
fire. That's the glow of the monitor.
All right.
I'll
Maybe
pull up
it's
a
the
fire.
hurricane.
I'll pull up a fire video so it looks more realistic for you.
There you go.
Maybe it's the hurricane. He seems like he might be a little windy.
Probably my fan. Don't
so
worry.
I'll go ahead and be devil's advocate here. So the problem with sophistry is the argument of extending the child adult definition is in today's society. You could easily argue that 30-year-olds aren't really old enough to make their own decisions because they think and act like children. So maybe we could bump it up to that age as well. I mean,
At what
if we're
point in
just
time
using
was
logic.
18 determined to be the age of enfranchisement anyway?
Wait, somebody
What
said
process
something
created
right
that?
before that saying, like, we don't want people to. Did somebody say something about reoffending or like something about behavior? Like, I don't think you can control behavior in the way we think we do. I thought we were going in another, like, sorry, I just totally.
I agree.
You
And I
ruined
like,
my
even though I
shit.
think Francis took it in a stupid direction, I think it's less stupid than where IFI took it.
Like, how about
think
this?
you're ugly.
Do you think that people who commit crimes are more likely to reoffend in America or not?
Well, say that again. I was laughing.
Question.
No, you're good. That's a
If you go to
very
jail,
important question to determine which way we going. But
I don't know
like-
about that.
I subscribe to
like, do
free
you
will,
think that
if
people
helps.
like if they're a serial killer, we shouldn't let them out because they're gonna kill more people? Like we can't help them.
Okay, so there are different serial killers in this stack. You have those that agree with the system that, yes, if you release me, I'm going to kill more people. Those are a shoe-in. We just keep them or kill them, whichever way you choose to go, right? But then there's the others that are like, I never did it, I never did it, I never did it. But there's a mountain of evidence stating that they definitely did it. You know, they had the heads lined up in the refrigerator type situation. These people, kill them or keep them, up to you, man. But it comes down to there being the use of force having to be utilized here. These are violent criminals that have already sort of created a mythos around the idea of doing
So
what we were calling evil.
So I don't believe in evil. I believe it can all be explained by mental illness. So to me, what you're saying is that we should harm and punish the mentally ill. And to me, that just sounds really inhumane.
Do you believe a serial killer that is an
that's a
avowed
proven
serial
evil.
killer can
Still
be
inhumane. Why are we going to use violence on violence?
Torsha, you don't believe in evil?
No, I don't.
I was waiting for someone to.
I have a very
rebut
clean
that.
snake. It's fine. I'm fine.
What about good?
No.
So you don't believe in good or evil?
No.
What about free will?
Do you believe in fairies?
I think sadism is the closest thing to evil, right? Like if we're really trying to identify what is evil, I think sadism would be it.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm not a slave to God, so.
Right.
you-
neither-
do
that's
you
why I'm,
believe in
that's why I'm
nice and
trying to
bad
explain
things?
I
some-
just
in a different
it's
way.
irrelevant.
So
And
where's
if
the
God
line
is
drawn
real, you
then?
are a slave, whether you say that or not.
I'm sorry? What did you
If
say?
God is, who are you? I'm sorry.
You.
Well, yeah. Okay. Like, where do you draw the line then? You know, between those two polar opposites, like good and evil. Where's the line at, or how do you determine which is what, or what's like, or where does your moral compass come from?
If it
Well,
floats,
it's like pornography. You know it when you see it.
Well, that's a lot of different questions that you're asking me. But if, I guess what I'm saying is that anybody that commits, let's say, like a murder or a crime of assault, it's usually a faulty system, and that there's a lot of research in like the Nordic model, for instance, that shows that if you give them proper rehabilitation, that's not just like we're kind of nice to them. It's like extensive vocational training, extensive therapy, housing. They find it all for you, that there's they don't reoffend. But in America, we have this belief that people do reoffend, and I don't know where the fuck it came from. But I don't know if it's our system, if people are talking about, if anybody has a stat on it, because I genuinely, like, I
past
don't know where
behavior
it
is a
comes
good
from.
indicator of future behavior, but also there's a big business reason to want for recidivism to be a thing that everybody knows about, right? Because you want
Sure.
repeat customers.
But so in America is what you're saying, correct?
We
So
also said
why do you
earlier-
think the excuse is over in like the Nordic countries? Because
I've never been there.
It's probably a
good model.
cultural difference. It's probably a
Well,
Well,
yeah, just
isn't-
to say, that is a 90% white country. That's like
Isn't
90.
like like violence and crime though is typically cyclical, right? So something happened to me, therefore I take on that persona or lifestyle or trauma, and then in turn I turn and do it to somebody else, and it becomes cyclical, sometimes generational, like alcoholism, drugs, getting into gangs, depending on where you're growing up, like your nature versus nurture, all of those all come down to like that cyclical event. And then it's like, at what point do we stop it, right? But you can't stop something like a trauma or like what kind of culture or nurturing you were raised around. You can't stop that unless you actually get a hold of it and do something to change it. That's where the therapy, the rehabilitation, all of those things. And then that now you're putting a stop to that cycle. Whereas here in America, I don't think we have that concept. We just think bad is bad. You're bad. You did this because you're bad. I don't care how you grew up with your mother beating the crap out of you, or you grew up with an alcoholic father, or you grew up in a really bad neighborhood and it just kind of happened to you. You're bad. You did bad. Therefore, you go to prison, XYZ. Whereas I think in other cultures, they might kind of take the other round of it.
They just have mommy
So
issues.
they've done a lot of research on severe mental illness cross-culturally, and there's literally no difference between sub-Sahara Africa and schizophrenia, for instance, and America schizophrenia. However, in America, in fucking America, we still have this mass incarceration problem. And it's like, if we know that mental illness is pretty much the same, it might change a little bit. You know, if they're how to like recognize somebody is mentally ill overseas, maybe they start eating their like sacred goat at the wrong time. Like it can look a little different, but it's going to be fundamentally the people who don't have the illness are going to recognize that something's off about them. So it's like, I don't know. It's like if we can recognize there's generational trauma, like you said, and we can recognize that there's a distinction between somebody that does something evil per se and somebody who does something evil because they're psychotic. You know, like how would you draw that line is what I'm curious.
Right. Like, well, then I think you have to ask the question, is there a cure to what you've, like, what kind of trauma have you gone through? What is the history? You know, and this would be just the same as a psychiatrist sitting down, and diagnosing that, you know, to start with, to see like, why did you do bad? You know, is it because it's just the bad neighborhood you grew up in, or again, your mom beat you, or your dad was an alcoholic, or you're just literally psychotic and you're, you know, a sociopath. So I think breaking that down, and that's where you draw the line. Is there a cure, for instance, for this like behavior that you're doing? Is there a way to, you know, and that's just like you look at children, like children who grow up with a nurturing parent. How do those children treat other children? You know, when well, I mean, Flo might know, like there's kids that are they're just dicks, and you're like, I don't ever want to have my kid at your birthday party, right? Well, because I remember you told the story about your kid at like a birthday party, and you had to go like, I think you remember it, but
I told a kid I threatened the kid because he was being too rowdy around my little daughter.
Lock him up.
Right. But like there's kids out there that you're just like, you're a dick. But then you look at their parents and they're like, you're a dick too. Now I see where this bad behavior comes from.
I actually don't believe I think parents get a lot of flack for sometimes they're just faulty child. I don't think it's always the parents to blame. I think most parents do the best they can with the emotional toolbox they have at the time. Like,
so I just blame the village.
Why are we always trying to blame?
You ever know a kid that used to torture animals personally? You ever know one of these people?
Yes.
If there was
So you knew a person that tortured animals. What
I
did
knew
you do?
many people that did, and some of them turned out fine. They didn't actually kill anybody, if that's what you're asking.
See, she immediately sidesteps responsibility for a given act.
Wait, what? I think you're missing my point. My point
No, I
is
hear
it's going
you
to be
saying
hard to
that
determine.
some are fine and some are not. I'm just saying, you know, a person who tortured small animals, grew up and didn't become a problem for society, and you know people who tortured small animals and then grew up and were a problem for society. You
Yeah,
don't
but-
think that's any kind of an indicator of anything?
No, but you know what is an indicator? That's like the media Netflix portrayal of serial killers.
I was
What-
using that because it's a very public portrayal. It's
but
a very
it's not an
distinct-
accurate one, is what I'm saying. A more accurate one would be a pyromaniac. How many kids,
Right.
boys in particular, do you know that
Okay, so
set shit on
let's
fire?
use pyromania. Pyromania is perfect. That'll actually work flawlessly.
Fire.
Okay, so
Fire.
playing with fire is an indicator that you might play with fire in the future.
They have like a direct association with fire, having an obsession of fire and like a conduct disorder, which is like if you
hear
may
this, right?
turn into a avoidant personality disorder. I'm no doctor, but conduct disorder is the only thing they can give you before the age of 18 because they don't like to diagnose certain disorders prior to that.
More likely to vote libertarian. You know the signs.
I mean, I've seen both sides of crazy, and let me tell you, it looks the same.
I want to hear more about
What's the other
stats.
side of crazy? I mean, what are the two
Talking
sides?
politically, like when people will try to differentiate between sides or the middle and liberal, it's all the same. It all follows the same like pipeline.
I wanted to hear more about the stats of who's actually helping the mentally ill. You said something
Yeah.
about slaves to God and the godless
Wait, whoa,
heathens.
whoa,
Which
whoa,
ones
wait.
were the
The
good
church.
guys again?
The church.
Yeah, those
The
people.
church the church will raise funds and they will put it towards different residential housing for the mentally ill, like
Damn,
church
those
by
slaves
church.
to God. How dare them do this?
I did a
I know.
video
How
on
dare
that.
they? No, I'm not against religion. okay?
I'm against those things.
Clearly
though.
not.
If
I
we're
mean-
thinking of the same thing.
That was me giving something to the church, even though I know I come on here and say like I'm not a slave to a god, but I'm saying, but the church has done more than arguably what the most liberal side has done, which seems to be they like to take the credit for a lot of the new mental health shit.
And I think that what's happening is that they're exploiting a situation to get slavery.
Obviously.
I put a link in the back. I did a video, or it's really just kind of an interview. Somebody else was telling the story about the rehab that he went to. He was in one of the Carolinas, and for his drug charge, he was basically put in a 2-year rehab facility that was religious, work based. And it's pretty astonishing to hear.
Like you think it was bad, is what you're saying? I
It
don't
was-
think they
yeah.
should have to do that for small drug
Like
offenses.
he broke his leg, and like he was still having to work with a broken leg without pain meds because it's in a
Mhm.
and he
Yeah.
worked for a moving company. Like it's wild actually.
Yeah. Yeah, what would happen if he chose not to do it?
He'd be
So actually, the story is pretty interesting. He called his mom. He just decided because the doctor that they were sending him to told him, if you keep doing this, you will permanently ruin your leg. And they were not going to let him stop doing it at the rehab. And so he made a decision, and he thought he was going to prison, but he called his mom. He met her at a Walmart. He left the rehab and then went straight to court the next day and explained it to the judge, and the judge worked with him. He didn't send him to prison.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so it had a good ending, but it's wild to hear about these things.
So, Torsha, I wanted to get back on the
Yeah.
cultural aspect of
Mhm.
what causes people to become mentally ill or not.
Well, we don't know the
adjusted.
cause. There's no
Not-
like.
Well, there are well studied causes of people who.
I got
choose-
3
Yeah,
of
but
them
it's
if you'd
impossible
like.
to say
No,
what
it's
it
not
is.
impossible. It's
Yeah, no,
well
it is
studied.
100%.
The
Like,
the
We
rate
would
of
be
ab-
we
the
would
rate
be
of abuse-
partaking in misinformation if I agreed to that right now.
Hey, Amor, I got 3 for you. Nature, nurture, and free will. That's just the appetizer.
I was just gonna go with single motherhood.
I
That's
love
part
when
of
men will
nurture.
say fucking single moms as a way for the men to get absolved of their fucking behavior. Once
No,
again, way to
the-
trigger me.
It's been well
God
studied.
damn
It's
it.
been well studied that children who
Men
live
just
in a-
lack
in a household with
accountability.
single
My
moms-
God.
households with children who live in a home with a
Sure.
single mom are much more likely to be subject to.
Okay,
all
so
different
go
kinds
get
of
dad.
abuse and grow
Go
up to
get
be more
dad.
mentally ill.
Go get
Y'all
dad. Where's dad?
Comes back to that would come
Where's
back
dad?
to why is dad not there, and also you have to remember what kind of stress and strain is a single mom under if the event that there is no significant other to help in child rearing and raising kids and dealing with this and ensuring that, like she's probably working two jobs. She's probably stressed. She's probably trying to get dinner on the table. Kids are acting rowdy, doing stupid shit, yada, yada, yada. And like the brain is fried. Right. So now you're the only parent in a household stressed out the wazoo trying to raise children. And again, that goes back to that cyclical. It just becomes traumatic.
Is single mom.
Who asked the question? Was that you, Hurricane?
No.
Who asked that? Was that?
That was me.
What was that?
Okay. Have you read the study that you're talking about?
Actually, I pulled up 3 of it. I've been reading it while y'all were going on.
And so, what else is in the? What's it say about poverty and about the likelihood of the single parent living with another adult partner?
So yeah,
you're good. You're bringing
the
up
abuse
stuff,
rate is
Dads.
significantly higher for when a single mom takes other men into the household with
Well,
them.
The answer
I can put a
where
link in
where
here
I'm going with this is
to-
that when they ran this study, there's the single parent household, the kids who live with a single parent, right? The way that they define that means that you can have 2 adults in the house, and that dads are much more likely to have a partner in the house with them after splitting up from the mom. For the sake of the study, my daughter lives with me and what's essentially her stepmom. It would still count. I would count as a single father household. So really, what you're talking about is 2-parent household versus 1-parent household, and that study is getting twisted so that incels can be mad at women.
Okay. Well,
And the topic is to be mad at men. Stay on topic, Amor.
You got to be angry.
No,
with me.
I am on topic because culture has a direct impact on the nurturing of the next generation, and because of the increasing rate of divorces, it's feeding a pipeline of mental illness. And since we
So if
closed
men
all of
know
our
this,
mental
why do
institutions,
they
we don't have a
leave
place
the
to
home?
put these people anymore, and we're sticking
I
them in
believe
prison.
Ashley and I broke that down on a stream once, and we read further, and it. I could be wrong. It depends on what study you're reading, but the one we broke down was basically when it came down to single parents. Then it also broke down to based on poverty levels, their location, and like me, for instance, I'm in your generic suburbia. My kids are in, great in the terms of the education, like they're well tended to and they're well fed and all of these things. So like their chances of doing all of this crazy stuff like decreases down to almost nothing, whereas somebody in a completely opposite position that I'm in, their children, being their single parent, their children's risks increase significantly based on all of those other factors. So it doesn't always just boil down to just being a single parent. It
Guns, what are
actually
you
factors
talking
in
about?
all of these other things.
You
I also
forgot
think
one
it's
variable,
so new
Sarah.
with
There-
everybody breaking up that it's
ahead.
eventually going to be less of a bad thing, I guess, if you want to put it that way.
Well,
I think it's just a new thing that people are trying to
He
co-parent.
can't reach one. What are you
One
talking
variable you
about?
forgot to mention, Sarah, is their mom doesn't hate men, so that's also a
That's
plus in
good.
your home. So
That's good.
there's
Yeah,
hope
and
for your
Sarah,
I love men.
Sarah, I wasn't trying to say that single mothers can't be good mothers. I was raised by a single mom, and I had 3 brothers. She raised me and my 3 brothers by herself, and she did a relatively decent job. And
I'm
it's
sure
not-
she'd be so proud of that review.
she would be
She
proud
had
of the
no
honesty.
choice. Like, goddamn.
She raised me to be honest. She'd be proud of the honesty.
Mm.
So
You think?
So what I'm
You
saying
should
is-
send her the link.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll send her the link. Yeah.
They're just jealous, Amor. Don't worry about them.
Anyway.
I think it's interesting we're talking about the single parent thing. I wonder if anyone can talk about why there's such a disparity between men and women in prison. I didn't know this is this different. There's apparently it's 93% men and only 7% women in prison.
That's gonna go up for sure.
Testosterone.
I feel like
Men
they
are more likely to commit violent crimes, and women can show cleavage to get out of tickets. It's pretty simple equation.
That's one factor, I'm sure, for sure. I've definitely gotten out of some tickets because my titty's out, but it don't know if that
And
would
I've
be
showed
why
my
we're
dick
not
to
in
that out,
jail.
so, I mean, that
I can't
Um,
even see them, to be honest.
I got a charge for trying that.
Anyway, I know that judges, there's bias between genders in court. I know that's a factor. It should be a higher number if we took that. I don't know.
You support locking up more women for offenses. Thank you.
I don't believe in locking people up, so that's why I'm here.
Sasquatch, there is no evil in this world. You're confused, so we don't lock up.
So we don't lock up women at all?
I don't think we should be locking. Oh, Jesus. Never mind.
It's been fun, though. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We all are. Trust me.
Most of us here are for justice, it seems like.
So if there's no nature, nurture, or free will, like what does cause bad things?
Yeah,
Like,
what do
it's
people do anything at
random.
all?
If nothing, if we go back to the time that we all were cells, we would all end up in this position on
Uncle
this
Guns,
panel.
can you
at
come
some
in the
point.
panel and explain, please?
I'm sorry?
What are
Bad
you
is
talking-
relative.
I'm talking to Guns.
Well, he's not.
I
Can you
talking
type
shit
it?
in the chat.
Who is talking right now?
Yeah, can you type
Hurricane,
it?
he's yelling at
Hurricane, the one
that.
next to you.
Oh, okay.
Hurricane
talking to
always
people in
has
chat.
drama. He never wants to talk about the actual
No.
topic. He only wants to come on and talk about
Why don't
drama
you kick
or-
him off?
or just
Isn't that
panel
I like
Right.
you. At least I have a big dick, bitch.
All right, bye. Usually he sits quietly, and
Patriarchy.
he's just a panel squatter.
I
so,
recognize the name. I don't
Good
remember
window
him being a
dressing. It's always
twat.
hard to come by.
I think the last time I heard he's always in beef with somebody, right? And so I just don't care too often, but I don't mind if he's taking space on the panel and there's nobody in line and he's just sitting there quietly. It's like, whatever. He wants to feel special.
But when he speaks.
But when you start doing that and especially starting drama with one of my wrenches, who is always here and always, working very hard in the chat, like I'm just not gonna put up with it. So you don't ever fuck with the wrenches, folks. They're loyal and trusted, and they tune in every time.
Oh wait,
So-
am I one of those? I think I.
We are the
Yeah,
law.
don't fuck with me. Just check.
Shout out to the
Oh, you're on the
wrenches.
tomato. There you go. Yeah, shout out. to the
So we were saying that we're all
privilege.
just chemicals arguing with ourselves, I think is what we were getting at.
Yeah,
No,
the nihilistic
point.
argument.
It's not
This
a
is
nihilistic.
blue
I hate when
privilege.
people say that. It's such a straw man.
Oh, well, then describe it in a way that doesn't result in nihilism.
The no good and evil
I
paradigm.
think it's so fucking awesome that somehow, randomly, out of fucking thin air, something combined with fucking air, water, heat came together to get us to this point right now with so many different people on a fucking panel. If that's not wild to you, I don't know what the fuck is.
Would you
That's a
say
lot of
miraculous?
Huh? Reckless?
Miraculous.
Miraculous.
I guess so.
You know
I'm
what's
curious-
miraculous is food. Since our panel is well behaved, I don't feel the need to worry so much. I'm gonna just step away and go grab something and bring it down.
No,
But carry
no.
on. Don't
Where's
be
my
dicks.
sandwich?
No,
Back to the kitchen.
no, I will. You want a sandwich?
So how does the existence of good and evil bring meaning to your life so it's not nihilistic then?
Me?
No, whoever asked the question.
Well,
Rick.
I don't. I
So,
think, who
I'm
else?
just
Oh,
chemicals
right now.
arguing with myself. Don't ask me.
yeah. So what her worldview is describing is
Whoa! I haven't described it.
you have. You
No, I
have.
haven't.
You,
No,
you've
I
done
haven't.
it.
He got
You're
just a
made
little, he got a little-
assertions.
Go ahead.
You've made assertions about a
stardust.
worldview, and I am commenting on your assertion.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, so if you can't say that something is good and something is evil,
Mhm.
and you think that things are random,
Yep.
and you just appear here out of random acts, that you have the belief that you really don't have control over
That's
what's
been a-
happening.
You don't have
Yeah, but
control.
we
It's
don't
right.
have
either
it
under paradigm.
regardless of
Right.
if we believe in it
Right.
or not.
So if you don't have control over your own behavior, then what's the point?
But I mean, under the
I mean,
other
I
alternative,
mean-
God has control.
The devil made me do it
So,
anymore.
Right.
so
Well,
this is something.
I never
that-
said I was a theist.
Well, I extrapolated it.
Most people do believe in good and evil, so
No, I'm an atheist.
I utilize the terms good and evil to distinguish between like good and bad things. It's a very easy linguistic tool to convey a concept without having to do a lot of explanation.
Who said that? The law.
That would be Caucasian Sasquatch.
Oh, sorry. I wish it would like go like this or something.
Grand Admiral Snowflake right there next to you.
You're saying that
I'm currently under a ban, so I don't appear as myself
sure.
until my ban is
sure.
up. So, you know.
You're
but,
incognito, undercover.
yeah.
Got it. Say less.
I will.
It's not a. Did you say it was a simple way to look at the world? I find
It's
it
an
to be very
easy way to have a conversation with people across many cultures. You don't have to explain what you mean when you say good, and you don't really have to explain what you mean when you say evil. It's only when you talk to people who try to remove the concepts of good and evil from society that you have to start explaining the very finer details of your linguistic tools.
Well, yeah, still working on it. It's definitely something that's not easy to convey. Doing my best, sir.
Well, you're doing excellently. Personally, I approve of the concept. I'm something of a Reformed Southern Baptist, you know.
Hey, Torsha, would you answer a question from chat?
Yeah, go ahead.
So King Philip would like to know how you would describe the Holocaust. Would you describe it as good or evil or not? Those
That was
terms?
an unpleasant time.
I don't know if we should be talking about that word while she's not here and let her
Yeah,
make
probably
that
not.
decision, but hold on to it.
Let's say the no-no times during World War II. So do you have any descriptors of that?
Conflict and war, from my belief, stems from the concept of good and evil, and good and evil goes back way before our time when it came to somebody trying to assert control over land. Like, that's one thing. So anytime we talk about conquering, wars, that stems from a concept of good and evil that I don't think would otherwise.
So you appeal to power then?
That was neat.
Me?
Yeah, you just appealed to power. You said these
What do you
people
mean?
are
Not
trying
to
these
them?
people are trying to control people and make them
It
think
is.
that good and
It's-
evil is a thing. And so
It's
they're
not
using,
a question if it is. It just is. Like, when it comes to
She
hierarchies,
just
religion.
dispossessed her responsibility over to history rather than self-determination. That
What do you mean
well
by that? Can you
said.
elaborate?
Basically, you sidestepped the question. He was asking specifically a moral tenet, right? And you went, well, the good and evil thing goes back to war, and war is a bad thing, but you know, you don't really have any defining tenets to define what is bad in the first place.
Okay.
It was sort of a circular argument, but you were saying history created war and evil and good and all
So
of this.
war is a matter of trying to like get resources in some way from either scarcity in some way or just the way that our countries work. I personally don't believe in this concept of like conquer, war, bad, punish, harm, kill, murder.
Can I jump in here? I think another way to say it is like evil. I can see what you're saying that it's shorthand, who we're saying that snowflake, but it doesn't really like actually portray like why something occurred or why all the horrors of World War II, you know, actually happened. It's a saying evil doesn't really explain what actually happened.
Is that what that was? You didn't ask anything, right? You were elaborating.
I was trying to agree with you in a way.
Yeah.
I think that
I love you.
Philosophically, I
It-
could
it's-
agree
it's
with
one
her,
of
but
those things-
pragmatically you lose it.
Wait, it's a philosophical. I think it
I
is
think that if you make
pragmatic.
the case that there is no evil, then philosophically I can get on board with that.
Yeah.
But pragmatically, I don't know how you get on board with that.
Sure. So if somebody commits an act, we'll do murder because I feel like it's the most extreme and the easiest. You think that we should have an entire trial where we have a bunch of people saying he looks like he's showing no remorse and shame on him. have the media blast this dude on the internet to come to the conclusion that this person in fact did what they admitted to doing, assuming that they admit guilt or whatever. So it's like, okay, so now what? So we're going to either sentence them to death, moral, if you will. I don't think it is, but
For the record, I'm against the wood chipper gang, but that's
Because you'd be in it. That's cool though.
But like,
see, Torches, see what happens when you give them wood chippers.
Will you shut up?
Hold on.
Wood chippers are available.
So we're
at
going
your
to
local
point.
Lowe's.
We're going to point the finger and say shame on this person in the hopes of what? To put them behind
scapegoating
bars in
activity.
hopes for what? That they never get out again? Or is it that jail's actually going to do something to quote unquote help them? Like what's like my question to people that believe in good and evil is if having a jail system and punishment is so effective, why the fuck does this country suck so bad? With mass incarceration, people getting in trouble for all these things, condemning them, and then they switch every like. It depends on what's trending. It's like
I agree.
You already answered your question.
Yeah, it's a psychological scapegoat activity. I agree with that. The whole ritual of convicting people and that thing. I do think that it's a societal scapegoat activity. But I think that if you carry it all the way, then anything there's no good or bad. Well, like then how do you justify having any opinion about anything?
What do you mean? What like why does it matter if we
Why
can't
doesn't
control it?
No,
What's your
why
moral
does-
compass based on?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that works.
Like how do I decide what's good or bad? In your terms of good and bad is
How do
what
you
you're trying
decide
to-
what you advocate for and against? And
what's
why?
normal and mentally ill? That's like my dichotomy. So if you
But that's-
it's a spectrum though. But we
How
kind
do
of
you
all
define-
can.
There's no dichotomy. There's no positive. There's no negative. There's no left. There's no right. There's no
It's just
center.
irrelevant when you look at it in terms of good
But
and evil.
ill or healthy is a dichotomy.
Not really. It's a spectrum.
It's a rebranding.
She's a
Yeah,
radical
maybe,
relativist.
maybe. But if
But
you treat those, no, hold on. If you treat those like the evil, let's say, as mentally ill, it reinforces rehabilitation and not punishment. That's the goal of it. Did that make
Stop
sense?
trying to put her in a box, Flo. Not everything
can
is black and
try.
white.
I put her in a bag. I mean,
That's
that'll
what
at
they
least-
always do. These fucking. Like, it's
I could
okay.
see that where
No, it's not complicated. You appeal to power to explain why things happen in history and why things happen in present.
No.
The thing that is real to you is the power to make things happen.
No.
That's what's real to everybody, though. I think.
I don't agree.
Well,
I think you're coming from.
if you don't
you're
have
coming
objective
from more.
morality.
I'm sorry.
If you don't have objective morality, then the only thing that's
Do you
real
think
is
people that commit crimes had it? Do you think they had
Definitely.
objective morality? Like here's what's interesting is that the people will always come in with these ways of thinking and you lose me a bit. I don't know if my brain just thinks like in a really freaking ADD way, but the thing is, regardless
You're
of what
one
I
minute,
say
okay.
today and regardless of what anybody else says, people will behave the way they're going to behave. Like when people behave badly, for instance, they were going to behave badly. Your jail didn't like stop them from doing it, right? Otherwise it wouldn't have happened.
How about a stockade, or possibly public flogging?
So
Tar
I
and
have
feather.
laws, right?
Tar
Laws
and
are
feather.
irrelevant if people are just going to do whatever they're going to do. There's no point in labeling
Well,
someone's
it's-
behavior as good or
it's good
bad
to
because
have-
it's just going to happen no matter what. So
A feminist anarchist?
You know
This
what
is
I think of?
interesting.
You know what, instead of the law thing, like when people ask me what would you tell kids? Like if you were a parent, how would
The
you
truth.
raise your kids if you don't believe in good or evil? And I'm like, that's a good question, because then it's like, well, do you want to say, I don't believe that this, like, no, that's kind of scary, but I don't know how to explain it. So if that's what you're trying to get at, let me know, because
no, I'm trying to understand, and that's all I'm doing. I already explained to Flo that I'm an atheist.
Yeah.
I don't have objective morality, but I try my best to understand it because atheism produces a toxic level of nihilism because it requires you to remove yourself from the pointing to a higher power, and so your ability to formulate objective morality and say that you're doing something right or wrong totally disappears, and the only thing you have left is the ability to say, well, this group had more power than that group. I had more power in this situation than that person did. So they had their will. I had my will done, or they had their will done based on whether or not you had the
You ever
power.
done anything wrong? Something you knew was wrong and you did it anyway.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Everybody
Did
does.
you
that.
have a weird feeling in your belly when you were doing that wrong thing? That
Sometimes.
you knew was wrong.
Sometimes.
So, for
I'm-
example,
I'm-
Amor,
I'm-
would
I'm
you say
fairly-
that you would say that it's not personal responsibility. It's the chemicals made you do it. Is that what you're getting at?
God, IFI, why do you keep interrupting conversations that are interesting for your nonsense?
That's why we have
Stop
IFI.
interrupting
Who does
chemicals. You don't matter. You're just chemicals arguing with itself. I'm talking to a human being. So,
I don't
Amor,
believe in that chemicals.
He's a
getting
man.
back to your atheist
I was going to
nihilism.
ask that. When you say atheist, do you mean the belief that there is no God, or you don't know? Like,
And
are you?
no
Oh no, I'm not
soul,
agnostic.
No
I'm not
free
agnostic.
will.
Full blown atheist.
No good evil.
Isn't
Could you
that a
pretend to
religious
be
belief?
If you wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that a religious belief?
Oh
It's a
yeah,
faith?
absolutely. You have to have faith in order to say you're an atheist.
Okay.
Yeah. I think
Interesting.
things are random, but you can kind of set it up, and hopefully it'll.
Quite
The-
deterministic.
The easiest
I'm
way
a
to
hard
prove their
determinist. I'm just trying to be reasonable.
Amor,
Hold
the
on,
easiest way
I
to
want to ask this: Who, like, is there a belief that Princess has a family resemblance to Torsia?
We're married. Duh.
Gingers have no souls. We don't
You're
care.
You're not.
So-
Yeah, we know. I
I
stole all of them. God damn it.
Every aspect of her statement so far that I've been able to parse out seems to absolve the individual's responsibility for their
They
own
always
actions.
say that. It's like
Either-
we're still going to reprimand them.
Either
It's okay, you're not responsible for
mental
that
illness, mental illness or cultural,
Mental
or
illness is a suffering disease of the mind. I do not
You-
think by any means that is leniency. And if we already agreed in the beginning of this conversation
we brought up
that
lenient.
mental asylums are worse than jails, I
I
don't want to
agree.
fucking hear that it's leniency. God damn it.
I
We treat
reject
them the
all your
same.
terms.
So we treat the mentally ill in that get the insane, whatever you call it, insanity plea. We treat them the exact same as somebody in a jail. The only difference is the setting, and they're pretty much the same,
They're
if
the
not
same.
both pretty underfunded.
Yeah.
But I think is it I
The
don't
main
know.
difference is that one of those
Okay.
prisons has a definite end date, and the other one is open ended.
yes, it kind of comes down to due process. Like
I kind of like the Nordic way of doing it again. They will have like
The mostly religious countries.
several times. But you're
They can
talking
be-
about a culture
they-
that is singular. That's a very homogenized culture, and the entire culture agrees that that's the best way to handle.
we
a
can
criminal.
adopt it though. I don't think we're that.
I agree.
stupid.
We should bring more religion back to our country. We're becoming too
I
atheist.
hear you.
Yeah,
I hear
I
what you're
know.
saying. I would love that model to work, but it works in that culture. But I don't think you can
No, I
force it
think it-
on another culture.
I'm gonna try.
So you're going to
Torso-
use force to force a specific frame.
I want to introduce the idea. We're already introducing certain things that sort of fall under this Nordic model. Like, if you guys remember
This is
recently.
wild. She's a militant feminist anarchist. This is wild.
So I'm not a militant feminist. I've publicly spoken out about my views on aligning with either fucking a men's right activist
Like-
or feminist. So I would
It would
really
require
appreciate
her
if you
to
hold off on trying to
find
put me in a
something.
box. Okay. For
I'm
God's
putting
sake.
her in a box, Sasquatch.
She can't define
just
things.
had to click up your victim points over here and keep track of them. That's all.
Everything's not black
It's
and
okay.
white, Sasquatch. Don't put her in the box.
I'm blue. What do
Put
I
me in
know?
a fucking box. Just don't be surprised if I'm not in that box.
Also, there's a
when you
bunch of
open it.
men in the military, so no bueno.
Military? You scare me.
I am scared. I am the law.
Yeah, you guys
So,
need the most mental health
Sarah,
treatment.
can I
if I'm being
request
honest.
a speed date between Torsia and Flo and have them explain to each other why we don't punish chemicals? I want to hear
What?
the summary of this debate.
I don't understand why we don't punish chemicals.
I don't understand either.
Hey, Bay, how you doing?
I'm
Why are
doing
we in-
good.
why are we in trouble? What do we do?
I think that he wants us to explain why ending the war on drugs is a good option.
Oh my god, this dates back. Did you go through all the like? Did you go through all of it? How that started and shit?
I mean, I have. I don't know what you're thinking about when you ask me that question, but I have done a little bit of digging
Well,
into it.
racism is like the first thing that comes to my head.
Racism's
It's, like,
one.
very pervasive. Absolutely, like It's probably the best example of how like you can be jailed without being in jail before the war on drugs and then war on drugs. That's a really
Well, it's a business model, right? That's like the whole prison profit thing.
Well,
All
that's an
falls back to
opinion.
drugs.
That's
Huh?
an opinion.
Mine.
You're like,
yeah,
wait,
mine-
what? Wait,
mine is
no,
an
go
opinion.
ahead.
Well, that's with the war
I
on
think it
drugs.
is. I think it is.
The war on drugs. We lost bodily autonomy basically, and you had police shift from protecting people who had been victims of something to
Yeah.
attacking people for making bad decisions, and it just completely changed the whole paradigm. And I think that was a big slide, the beginning of
What
a
year
slide.
did it come in? Do you remember?
It was under Nixon.
Was it the 60s, 70s?
I think it was the 70s. We're about 45 years into it.
Because then
so yeah.
Bill Clinton, who was after that? Because wasn't Bill Clinton the one that I thought he was the one that took it away, wasn't he?
The war on drugs is still going on.
No. I'm talking about. Hold on, let me look it up. War on
Nixon initiated the war on drugs formally. There were drug laws before that, and like the marijuana
the
one was.
1994 crime bill. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that just
by
expired.
funding incentives blamed for driving mass incarceration. September 13th marks 25 years since signing the most far-reaching crime bill Congress ever passed. An excessive focus on punishment to control crime. Since the late 60s and early 70s, an overwhelming emphasis on punitive measures to combat crime has resulted in dramatic increases in the nation's arrest and incarceration rates. Yes. There's actually a really great documentary on Netflix that I watched about this. I always forget the name.
canceled Netflix over Cuties.
Huh?
I canceled Netflix over Cuties. Do you remember the Cuties fiasco?
I've never seen it. I specifically downloaded it to watch this documentary. I can't think of what it's called, and then I got rid of it. So I've never seen really anything else.
Yeah,
I heard it's gross.
The Cuties thing? Yeah, and it came out. I didn't see it either, but I saw a few little clips on Twitter, and when that movie came out, my daughter was exactly the age of the girls in that movie, and it just pissed me off. So they kept it up, and I canceled that shit.
I'll watch it later, just because it always pops up, and I never end up watching it. I don't know. What are we supposed to talk about?
I am the law. So, the debate topic was all people are chemicals. Why should we punish them? We don't punish chemicals.
Do you mean machines?
Okay, why do we punish robots?
Well, that's a hell of a lot better than sermonizing them into having bad souls.
Why would we punish robots? They just do what they're programmed to do. It's not their fault.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's you're programmed by chemical or by God,
Bad.
something
Shame on
programmed you. Is it a chemical or is it God? It doesn't matter. The answer to your question would be the same.
I am the law.
Actually, the answer to your question would be if God, then why aren't we punishing God? If God, then that would let people off the hook.
I don't know. If you got to force me to believe in you, or else I end up in an endless life after.
Earlier,
in
I
hell.
gave you
It's a little bit gaslighting.
I love you.
Earlier, I threw you a bone, and I said the devil made me do it, which you were supposed to point out. Obviously, the devil doesn't exist, so he didn't make me do it. So
Well,
who made me do
Satan, So
Who made me do it?
God damn
God
it,
did.
Torcha.
Lamest speed date ever. There's no
Whatever.
chemistry, guys.
There's
There's
no
no hope for
lame
you.
question. Your question
no
is lame. That's why we
chemistry. How would you
address
define what
them.
chemistry is?
I've seen more
It
action in
involves
Extra Cage.
chemicals and shit. I don't know.
Oh yeah, like psychosis.
Something about chemicals and shit. I don't know. I
Like
didn't pay attention
psychosis.
in school during chemistry. It's boring.
Yeah, chemistry did stuff.
I was
wouldn't
too
have
busy
passed
checking
your
out
own
the
test.
hot chicks like Sarah.
I love chemistry.
Chemistry
their
was good in
lipstick.
college. I enjoyed it in college.
I had a crazy science teacher. He was mad crazy. It was great.
That's fun.
Blew up all kinds of stuff. It was awesome. Things caught on fire. They ran around the room. It was great.
Caught on fire. Shit. Wonder if he
Yeah, he
murdered
was awesome,
anybody.
dude. He's one of the best science teachers in history.
That would sound fun, actually. A teacher that teaches and it's fun.
This dude
Yeah.
would like randomly, like in Georgia, it's hot or it's cold. There's no middle ground. It's either wet or it's really freaking hot and wet or cold and wet. It's always wet.
Ew.
So every now and then we have these beautiful days where it's like 60% humidity and 85 degrees. And he would just open the door and be like, get out. Everybody go out and touch grass. Everybody get out there and touch grass. You need to be real humans, real things under the sun. Go touch grass. And we just sit around and BS about, I don't know, random physics or different studies and stuff. He'd keep it on topic, but he was awesome. He was awesome.
Does Asveron know he's still muted? And have we heard from them yet?
Yeah. I'm here.
Oh, hey.
Well, he's not going to read a dissertation this time.
Good dude, man.
I'm trying to get Asveron to step up his dark triad traits, and it's really not going well.
Yeah.
Dark
You
triad.
need to appeal to his religious fallacies.
Well, there we go.
Guess you just can't make anybody do anything.
Well, I'm helping him. I'm encouraging him. I'm not I-Fi.
I get it.
I'm
What you
making
have
a
to do is
joke.
undermine his
There
moral.
can be only one.
So
Asveron, what do you think?
Regarding?
Us corrupting you.
Do you think we exist or are we just chemicals? No one can figure
Have
it
you
out on
spit on any
panel.
poor people today?
No, I didn't do anything bad today. I just woke up from the bed and
So you do have a concept of good and evil.
yeah. Good and evil exists. Good and evil is part of God's play, and God Himself has actually sent us. We are reflections, being souls of the universal soul, to experience every aspect of duality in this paradoxical universe. This universe is paradoxical because it's like a unification of contradictions. We are sent over here to experience everything. Actually, like we are just puppets in the hands of God, and we are meant to experience everything that He throws at us. Because I've seen many people's horoscopes, everything that they've predicted from cradle to grave comes true. Actually, if the guy will go into an accident, they've predicted that. They've even predicted murder as well. When the child was born, this astrologer was so good. He predicted that he'll get into an accident and kill someone. That happened. He predicted that the family will go bankrupt. That happened as well. So these are cosmic events. You can't control it. These forces are even stronger than the earth itself. We humans are nothing but playthings in the hands of fate.
Quick question. You said you're
that
God's
guy.
puppet, so like
Yeah,
you don't even
That's
exist. You're just like one of God's finger puppets or something.
No, we exist. Everything is real. It's not that we don't exist. We do exist. Everything, the world is real. Everything that's created is real. It's just that this body is a reservoir for experiences. The ego is actually, like what you say, is the very power of your consciousness that lies in the spine. It's known as Kundalini. It is actually meant to make you self-identify very strongly with this limited personality. After that, when you're self-identifying very strongly with this limited personality, you become subject to fate and causation and space and time. You can't help it, but they'll be able to change the chemical patterns in your brain and make you perform actions which you think you would never even do actually.
So, are you familiar with Jim Henson and Kermit the Frog?
No, I'm not familiar.
Okay, Google it sometime. He's
I
a
thought he
puppeteer.
explained everything really well.
He's
Oh
a
my God.
puppeteer, and
He's
so
good.
the question is, does Kermit exist, or is he just,
He
Jim
actually
Henson
lives
talking
in
to
Canada and
himself?
speaks as Jordan Peterson.
That's a compliment.
You guys, you gotta wash your penis,
Pretty much.
Truth is- I'm done. I fucking hate it here.
Well, do what Jim
we
Bob
gotta-
did it last week. He did like a full response to super chats via the voice of Jordan Peterson. It was quite comical.
Also, Kung Flu wrecked my voice, so I can't do impersonation. Sorry.
It's all your
About the
fault.
only good one I got.
Dave,
is
did
out.
you think that you're making God look any sort of good to me?
Well,
Not you.
His
think-
concept of God and yours are very different.
Also, I'm not gonna lie. Before you cammed up, I thought you looked like Apu, so I was kind of confused when I saw you. But anyways, just that's my
Pretty sure
silly
that's one of those
racism.
yes statements they talk about on YouTube.
Am I the only one that didn't
can't
hear,
make me
see
believe in
Apu while you're
magic.
talking?
Sorry, what?
Are you from India, by the way? I'm just curious.
yeah, I'm from India. I'm from India.
Oh, okay. You are the lightest Indian I've ever seen. That's pretty cool.
Oh.
It's northern.
Would you like to talk about the caste system? I have strong feelings about that topic.
No, the caste system was actually like it was meant for social. It was meant for social conveniences and for the upliftment of the society. It was not meant to be like hereditary. But then the priestly class in every religion are opportunists. What they did was they made it into a hereditary system and they corrupted it. You had the priestly class at the top, the warrior class at the second level, the third level you had the business class, the fourth level you had the class that serves everyone, like the Shudras. Below this are the Mlechas. Mlechas are someone.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you mind if I share a theory with you real quick and tell me if you agree or disagree with it?
Yeah.
A long time ago, there were the Indus Valley people. They were the natives to the land. They were the dark-skinned people. And then a bunch of white dudes showed up. They were called Aryans, and they were greatly outnumbered by the natives. But they could probably wipe them out militarily, but they tried to figure out a peaceful way to conquer these people. So they created the religion called Hinduism, in which they created a caste system in which the white people are holy and the dark skins are the untouchable slave class. And that's the origin of the caste system. Do you agree with that theory?
No, that theory has a lot of flaws in it. It was created by the British to divide the North and
no, this was like 4,000 years ago, dude.
This theory of the Aryans invading from the north and coming over there, because if you actually see, they came from Central Asia. If you look at Central
like Turkey
Asia,
around that
Azurun is correct on this one.
Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan, that's where these Aryans came from. But if you look at the people in Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, they have Mongoloid features. They're not, they don't have European, Caucasian features. So what the British did was they thought that we'll create this system of Aryans being from the north and Dravidians being from the south to divide and rule this country further. There's no historical.
What did the British have to do with it? They didn't show up until like the 1800s or whatever.
Yeah. Always had something to do with it.
He's talking about the propaganda that caused people to think.
Can we let Princess wants to hop off panel? So if you could do a closing statement and feel free to plug yourself and all of that fun stuff.
Yeah, I love you all. We've gone off topic and I know nothing about this, so I'm going to head out. It's late for me, but thanks for having me. I'll come back anytime. Thanks everyone here. Thanks for the good convo. I'm the Princess. I'll plug my channel, the YouTube, the Princess. I'm trying to get the 500 subs. Help me. I'm trying to get monetized. I'm a very small streamer.
When I get out of
1,000 subs while you're at it too.
Flow State.
Yo.
How much do I hate you on a daily basis?
Later, Princess.
Say that again.
I'm going to go too.
Bye.
It's nice seeing everybody at Tortia's, the channel, 2A's. I don't know anything about what you guys are talking about now. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for coming on as well.
She's not bad for a soulless ginger.
She's just chemicals, bro. You're giving her too much credit.
Oh, Lord. Who are you arguing with in the chat, Flo?
I just bounced out Sophia. She's being a cunt again.
Hey, be nice to Sophia.
No, I'm not going to. But nice try, Hi-Fi.
I got your back, Daisy. I'll fuck him up. Don't worry.
So, as Varen, you said that the priests at the top of the caste system set themselves up at the top of the caste system to consolidate power.
Yeah.
Based on skin color.
And the British created the lie that is believed that it was some sort of other race that came in that was
Let's
light
actually consider this for a second.
Consolidate power and divide the people in India. So, do you think that maybe everything that's going on in India is about power dynamics and not necessarily about some whatever that long dissertation you gave was about your higher power?
No, it was in India. Everything that happens is based on power. Just like in the US, like they give a lot of importance to race. Here we give a lot of importance to caste. Now, when I say caste, like let's say you belong to a particular caste and they're the majority and they have high numbers in that state. That person will be selected to represent the members in the parliament. He'll become a member of parliament or a member of the legislative assembly. It all depends upon how many people you have in the caste. Generally, the people in the OBC, other backward community or the scheduled caste, they're higher in numbers, the lower caste people. So they're given a lot of preferences because of their numbers. Upper caste people also have numbers, but the OBC people are the ones who are highest in number actually. So it depends on which caste you belong to. Like if your caste is like 16 to 20% of it represents 16 to 20% of the demographics, then that person can easily contest in elections, get a ticket, and even win and become a member of the legislative assembly or the member of parliament, and he'll be given some perks.
Surely there's infighting amongst the caste. I mean, that sounds very much like a political entity more than anything else.
There is a lot of infighting among the castes. The upper castes kill the lower castes over here. The lower castes also form communist movements and try to kill the upper caste people as well.
Well, it sounds like democracy is working terribly there. Do you think it'd be better if there was some system other than democracy, since small minorities can rule over other people without actually having a majority? Don't you think that maybe a system that is a little bit more fair could be established instead of using the tyranny of the majority?
No, I mean, like slowly compared, before it used to be horrible, but compared to before, it's become a bit better now. But in the olden days, like what would happen was that, like, let's say some person from the lower caste came to an upper caste area, they would beat him and kick him out. Or if his shadow fell on them, they would feel polluted and they would go and have bath. Or if that guy came over there and tried to hear the Vedas or something like that, they would take a hot rod and insert it into his ears because they would feel that.
Saying any of this is good, brother. I mean, we're not.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, no, it used to be horrible before, but after the parliament has passed many laws and all that, the discrimination has come down to a great extent.
Are there groups that are being more discriminated against, though?
Now, not much. Now, it used to be so bad, but now even the SCST, the people in the lower caste, they are very strong in numbers, right? So it's difficult to discriminate against them. So now that system of discrimination has come down severely. It's not removed completely, but it's come down severely.
Right.
I want to go back to arguing with the chemicals
inside the mouth of a kid that exists in a world that exists inside the mouth of a kid.
Hey Flo, since you couldn't ever settle the chemical debate, can you convince me what the difference between good and bad is, or evil, or not good and bad, good and evil, nice and bad? Like where do we draw those lines?
Nice is pleasant, good is considered of a broader well-being, I would say. But I agree. I mean, I agree with her premise, only in sort of philosophical terms. I think pragmatically, like,
it doesn't work in real life.
Pragmatic, yeah, it's not pragmatic to live according to that. But I think philosophically, it's kind of easy to see how good and evil really is about what side of any event you're on.
Do you also share her view that you aren't personally responsible, but that it's the chemicals that made you do it?
I think it's a moot point. I don't think it matters. I mean,
because I was hoping you were going to push back.
I don't know why you.
That.
Well, hold on. I'll push back on it. Are you suggesting that that's less silly than God caused me to do it?
Let's leave morality out of the discussion. Just personal responsibility, whether it's nice or bad, I don't care.
That is a moral matter.
Do you think we're personally responsible of our own actions?
I don't really know what you mean when you ask the question, because obviously we are responsible in the sense that our actions cause the results that we get. So responsibility isn't like
you. That's why I couldn't figure out why you couldn't straighten that out with her, because she kept repeating to you that we aren't personally responsible, and you just kept saying okay.
She didn't say those words ever actually. That's what Sasquatch was saying about her.
I mean, she was trying to play the the chemical card and saying the chemicals in our brains force us to do things.
She was moving the goalpost around based around lack of personal responsibility.
I couldn't figure out what she was saying, Sasquatch. To be honest,
just random. There's no determinism, and since there's no determinism, you're not responsible for your actions, and so you're just going to do what you're going to do. People are just going to be people, right? But some people are morally more astute than others, and you could say more people better than others. But I
It
don't
sounded
know
like
if-
he was trying to fix things without condemning the person. If I
Right.
had to guess what's going on in her head, and I
And
don't. Like
said,
that's why I said only philosophically do I agree with her. I'll condemn the fuck out of somebody. Like King Philip down there's a little bitch, for instance.
Well, Plumpy comes in with the $5 and says, Flow State, here's a gallon of milk to drizzle all over that body. Stay milky out there. And then Princess also comes in with a membership gift, and I believe it was King Philip who was the receiver of the gift. So thank you, Princess, and King Philip, own it.
Also, you're going blurry, laggy, Flow. You might need a reset.
So I was gonna piggyback on that last conversation a little bit and say that if you are incapable of, I guess, having ownership over your decisions because of the inherent randomness that exists because there is no God and there is no objective morality, then you're actually incapable of consenting to anything also because you don't have agency over your actions.
like that.
I couldn't find anything that she was saying to attack because, like I said, she has like no framework to even question because, again, there's no personal responsibility, there's no morality, there's nothing. It's just, and yet she denies being a nihilist. And I was like, you're like the poster child for nihilism. You're like going through all the bullet points of, you know, how
I call those people post-nihilists. They've gone beyond this. Well, think about it.
Neo-nihilist. That's a better title.
Well, I mean, that's I don't know. It's not quite right because she obviously believes the universe exists and that here we are. So yippee.
Yeah, but we're just the universe arguing with ourselves. Like, there's not 6 people in this room. It's just the universe arguing with itself.
I hear you, but it's not that different from As Varun's point. It could easily be a misinterpretation of some third actual factual reality.
Yeah, I don't like arguing with the puppet people because you know, what's the point of arguing with the puppets if we can't argue with the puppeteer?
Why not learn how they see the world and see if there's something analogous in your own life? You can learn.
I'd rather argue with Jim Henson than Kermit personally, but you know, you do you.
How about Alex Jones?
They're making the freaking frogs gay, including Kermit. Which maybe makes Jim Henson gay because Kermit doesn't exist. He's just a sock puppet. She did concede to robots was interesting because where do robots fit in the chemical equations? Like,
see, that's a transhumanist thing. I thought about heading in that direction with her, but I thought it might be going a little too far off topic because in transhumanism, you would have the ability to download a proper program of how to act in public.
Yeah, taking away
robots
all
are
of your
boring.
agency.
Robots are boring too because again, they just follow code, so that they don't have choice. So we don't punish robots for doing bad things.
We kind of do. If
No,
one
we don't. We just
regularly
fix the code. We just fix
If
the code.
one regularly injures people, it is discontinued.
You don't punish the robot. You just fix the code.
I'm not calling it punishment. I'm saying you fix the mechanism, the methods by which the whatever is made. I mean, we don't send children under the looms anymore to go gather the tailing fibers.
Would
know?
you build a prison for robots, Sasquatch?
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, you take a cutting torch to them. They're toasted.
Wood chipper.
Right, wood
No,
chipper.
her philosophy was pretty clear though that especially about the mental illness that you just basically have to fix the people, right? And that's the same ideology that you would have.
But
with
that's
the machine. You
that's
just
the
fix
thing.
machine.
That's the stepping stone straight to authoritarianism because who gets to decide what's normal and how to fix them?
And the only thing she could appeal to was power.
Well, the Nordic method, which is basically a very strong cultural reference to a historical foundation of morality.
Homogenous and very religious.
It's very homogenous. There's no diversity there.
What
You
the
don't
hell?
America.
Oh shit! Sorry, I just like totally had something like pop up on another tab, and I like started playing music, and I was like, "What the hell?" Like I thought somebody else was playing it.
I was curious why she was so focused on mental illness, especially where no good or evil
Because
exists.
mental illness allows you to absolve yourself of responsibility without actually having to admit that wrong was done. You can acknowledge that.
Hold on, she's checking a new panel member.
Daisy.
Hello, how are
Daisy.
you?
Daisy.
Hi, Daisy.
She's okay.
Oh, hello. Hey there.
Why are you still being cunty in exactly the same way you were cunty a year ago?
I typed that to join in the conversation. It was not directed at you. And I am sorry that you're upset. I feel like you're upset because I feel like deep down in your heart, you know that God is real and that God loves you and that God cares about you and your life.
Are you ready to accept Jesus
I
as
just
your
think you're
personal Lord and
missing
Savior,
out.
Flo?
I think you're missing out.
I think that you're being a disingenuous cunt. You know that you are. You know that this shit pisses me off. It's exactly the same thing that happened last
It's
time.
not. You are not
It
the
is.
only person.
And you
on the
are
panel.
hiding behind God. Your God. You're blaming all this on him. Do you think
She's
that you're
I'm not blaming anything
She's
on
evangelizing.
anybody.
Yeah, this
I
is
was
still
merely,
evangelizing.
I was typing in the chat. It was
Now you're
not
not.
directed at you. I was talking
I
to
know, and
other people
And it offended the
in
other
the
person
chat.
as well. And it was offensive to the other
Well,
person
I'm
as well.
sorry that you feel that way. That is your choice, and you can react
No,
however you
that's-
want to react.
I'm telling you what happened. That's not an opinion. His response was offended because it is an offensive thing to say to somebody. You know that because we've had this conversation before, haven't we?
It wasn't intended to offend.
Yes,
It was
it was.
intended. No, sir, it
You
was
can't
not.
stand on
It
your
was
square at all.
intended. It was intended to speak the truth in love, because I wish that no one would go through life without knowing the Lord. That is
Thou
how I
shalt
live
not
my
lie,
life.
Daisy. Thou shalt
Excuse
not lie.
me?
You're a liar. Thou shalt
I am
lie.
not. I'm not lying about that.
Jack
I'm
Talcott
not
saying
lying
not-
about how
You are
I do
lying.
life and what is precious and important to me. It is too important to me to lie about it. I refuse to lie about it. And I
You're lying
didn't go
right now.
away. You timed me out because you got in your feelings and you thought I was attacking someone, and I'm not attacking anyone.
No, I think that what you are is you're disingenuous and arrogant, and this is your cute way of talking down to somebody while having plausible deniability.
You know
And
what?
you know why I know that you
That's
think
what's in your heart. That's what's in your heart,
No.
Flow State. That's not in my heart.
I do.
That is
I do
not
talk
in
down
my
to-
heart. It
talk
never
to
has
you.
been.
When I'm an asshole, I have the balls to just be an asshole and acknowledge it. You
I
have to.
have no
that's
desire
actually
to be
doing
that
God.
way towards you or anyone. You are
Mhm.
projecting. You are taking something that's in your heart that you haven't resolved and you're trying to put it on me. And it's just not true.
What's the verse? Tell me the verse again.
The verse was the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And I'm not sure where
Oh.
it's at, but the other
Okay, so
verse,
when
the
you
one you got mad at, let
No,
me
that's-
tell you,
that's the one I
the
got
one
mad
that
at.
you got mad at the last time
that's the one-
was the one that says, only a fool has said there is no God. And that's a different psalm.
That's not
That's
true.
in a different area.
That's wrong. You're doing it again now. You just brought in
I'm
a whole new
not.
verse. So what I got mad at the first time is the one that you just said in chat. The beginning of wisdom is the belief in God. When
No,
you say that to people who
I
do
said
not
the
believe in
beginning
God,
of wisdom is the fear of the Lord.
okay. So when you say that to people who do not believe in God, you don't know that you're insulting them, huh?
I'm not insulting them intentionally. My
Yes, you
purpose in saying it, is to speak the truth in love, that if they want a truly meaningful and abundant
You're-
life, that they can have that with the
When you
Holy
say that
Spirit.
to people, what you're saying is, "I'm wise, you're a moron." And I
No,
know that
sir,
you know that
I
'cause
don't
we've
mean
gotten
it
in a
that
fight about
way.
this before.
I don't, if you take it that way, I'm sorry, but I don't mean it that way
Does
at
anybody else
all.
see how it can be taken any other way?
I see the
Nobody
chemistry here.
cares. Nobody cares, Flo. Hi, Alex.
I see the chemistry between those two. The last couple was a dead fish, but this one was hot.
This is classic evangelical thinking. any opportunity to speak the Lord's work is viewed beneficially unto the church. So,
And you know what,
It's a church child.
Sasquatch, I had rather speak the truth in love and be able to stand before my creator someday and said that I did the best I could.
I hear you. I get it.
Instead
I
of
really
not
dig
speaking
evangelicals. They're really easy to read because they'll tell you,
You did
right
the
up
best
front
you
why they
could.
don't like it.
You couldn't figure out how to spread God's word without being a cunt about it and pissing people off.
You're choosing to view it that way. That
I mean,
is
you're
your
being
feelings. You
objectively
have a
ineffective.
right to your response. I cannot control
You are
your response.
objectively ineffective.
I cannot control your response.
And you're irresponsible for
You're
your actions.
behaving like a little girl right now. You're behaving like a little girl who got their feelings hurt.
Look at you. Look at you not really caring about whether or not I get saved by God or believe in God.
I do care. I'm
So you're
speaking
going to
the
get there by
truth to
insulting
you.
me, antagonizing me,
I
antagonizing
am
me.
speaking
Flo,
the truth to
Flo,
you.
take it as a compliment. The girl's paying you attention.
Oh no, I don't need her attention. I tried to get rid of her attention.
Yeah,
Also,
even
don't feel too
Clue
bad,
Channel
Flo.
has it.
Give
Says you
attention
need to make love
to
and
King
move
Philip
on.
down there. He was white knighting for you,
Well,
dumbass.
don't feel too bad. Even I'm not Christian enough for her, and she has to pray for me constantly, and I'm the only Christian left on earth. So, what does that tell you?
Fair enough.
That's-
Alex,
that-
are you with us? I know sometimes you're.
Yeah, I'm here. Can
Okay.
you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Every
this
time,
the
every time I
fire
come
dude?
on recently, it's just religion. Last time I
We
came on, you guys were
only,
talking
like,
religion.
It's
It
always
literally
at the
just
end of the
happened
night.
because of her.
It's always at the end of the night too. Like
We can talk
well,
about
number one,
prison
when you
if
get
you're
on,
not
but-
chemicals. If you're a real human being, we can talk about prison. if you
Right,
want
not
to.
a redhead because they're soulless.
What's your thoughts on prison, Alex? Too much
Not-
profit, not enough punishment. What do you say?
Prison, not a place I personally want to go. Prison in America system is totally fucked. Recidivism rate is through the roof. For-profit prisons are horrible. The Norway model seems to be a lot better, have much lower recidivism rate. Blah blah blah.
Any pushback?
I personally like the Chinese prisons the best. They're
I know.
kind of like gulags, but they've been upgraded, so they're much more effective now. Very low
It's-
recidivism rate
It,
as well.
it is pretty cool when you're born with like an ethnic minority and then you just like spend all your life in prison. It's pretty badass. I will have to agree.
Should we cut off the
For
hands
me-
of the thief? What do you think about that hot topic?
Yeah, we were
What?
talking about wood
The-
chippers earlier.
Yeah. No wood chippers. Just cut the hands off the thieves. They get to live, but with no hands.
They used to do that for a long time. I think they still do that in Saudi Arabia and like those super Arabic countries.
I think those have really low recidivism too. So I think we're onto something here,
Yeah, 'cause
fellas.
they just kill people. The
Oh,
quality
when
of
you
life
when
is
you when you
worse.
behead everybody, they tend not to commit crime again.
Yeah.
So what's the private problem? You think government's better at prisons than private organizations?
Yeah, there's some things that should not be for the profit motive. Like we would never say that, like, oh, the military should be run by profit companies.
So like a not for profit private organization, perhaps?
There's no such. Well, I mean, you're talking about
There's no such thing.
You're
He
talking
almost
about
did
like
it.
you're talking about like a non-profit organization, but they're not going to run a prison. They're typically
Why not?
What
They
will be
can run
the,
all other kinds of charities. What's wrong with running a prison?
because it's not a charity. The reason they
Yeah, it
nonprofits
is.
do charity.
It's a benefit to society that a lot of law-abiding citizens would be more than happy to.
Can you name a single nonprofit that runs a prison in the world anywhere?
Not currently, but I mean
There you go.
that's our current system. I'm not saying how screwed up our current system is. I'm just offering solutions.
Well, the solution would be to end the for-profit system, to focus more on rehabilitation instead of punishment, to change some of the laws that send people to jail for minor drug offenses. Yeah, that would be kind of the solution along that track.
I'm a closeted ANCAP, so I could actually argue for profit prisons, but that it's pretty obvious there's high levels of corruption inherent in those systems. So that's why I said as long as you can separate the for-profit prisons from the judicial and police systems, I don't see any problem with that. But eventually they're going to find each other and collude and get into the horseshit. So we already know that's a no-go.
Well, you don't want keeping people in jail to be a profit motive. If there's a profit in
What's
that,
wrong
then
with
people,
that?
Well,
What's
because
wrong
then
with it
people are
just by
going to
itself?
naturally stay in jail longer because the profit is in keeping people in jail. So therefore, people are going to wind up staying in jail
Again,
longer.
if the private prison is not responsible for the people going to prison, but simply holding them there, what's,
Yeah, but do you
what's wrong
think
with that?
do you think that when someone goes to jail, it's like they just that's it? During the prison system, the prison is the one that determines, for example, whether they get written up, and that determines whether they get passed in the parole hearing. That basically, if you're living in prison, it's up to the prison, the warden, and the staff there to decide whether you're gonna essentially get marked down for something you did do, something you didn't do, and that will
That's
affect
why
whether
you
you get
require
parole.
full transparency, and including even government can monitor it if they want to. They don't get to run it, but they can certainly monitor everything, all the day-to-day activities and all that sort of stuff. So what's wrong with that?
Because you have the incentive set up to promote the wrong thing. If the incentive was if they got paid based on every person they rehabilitated, and they got paid on like the prison that got the lowest recidivism rate got paid in some kind of bonus, then maybe you could make an argument. But
So governments would never be influenced by incentives or lobbying or colluding with crony capitalists or anything like that. Is that what you're saying?
governments can be corrupt, but the level of
Can you name a government that's not corrupt?
I'm sorry. Do you think the prison system is more or less corrupt than the government?
I think it's corrupt because of the government. It's an extension of how corrupt our entire government is, including the crony capitalists, which
Do you think if we had an all private prison system, things would be better?
definitely than the government system. It wouldn't be perfect, but it'd be way less corrupt and way less problems than the government system.
So walk me through how this works. The
Okay,
all-private
so
system.
so let's say as a libertarian, I would tolerate a small, limited government that's in charge of the judicial system, and even has a hand in the police system. I still think the police system can be private as well, but I'll just grant
fucking lord!
I'll just grant you a small government judicial/police system. Now, if that's separate and apart from, say, a private prison company, the private prison companies can't force people into jail. They're just taking the people that the government already deemed as criminals and gave them
And
a
then
trial.
why if they get paid based on having the person in jail, what is their incentive to rehabilitate that person instead of just fucking them up more?
That's up to the incentive program. Are they being incentivized to rehabilitate their prisoners, or simply jail them for X amount of time and then release them as the government
So
requests
then,
or whatever?
the private prisons would get paid based on their recidivism success. So if they, for
They
example,
would get paid on running a business about whether or not
Well,
how much
how does their-
electricity
how-
costs,
how does-
how much
how
does
does their-
concrete cost, how much
how-
does
how-
security
but
guards
that's
cost.
that's not how does the prison system make a profit in your worldview?
The same way they make a profit in every other business in life. You can make profit, making water.
Well, the government,
you can make
the government,
profit,
no,
growing
the-
food.
They're not
whatever.
selling, but they're not selling their services to the market. Their customer is the government.
That is the market. The government is paying them to
The government
jail these
is
people.
their their one and only customer. So it's up to the government to
Who says
decide
they're the
that.
only customer? They could also jail, private arrests as well.
Private arrests as well. Who's performing these private judicial arrests and private
People that break the law and that don't need to involve the government police, like the FBI or whatever, to arrest you.
So who's gonna, like, a citizen's gonna arrest another citizen and give
Like I
them jail
said,
time?
I'm okay with private police, but I was granted
None
you
of
for
this makes any
argument, just
sense
make it
at all.
simple. I'll
Wait,
make it
how
simple.
does I'm just curious about the concept of like a private arrest. How, like, so a citizen arrests another citizen, and who
Sure.
gives them jail time?
the private prison?
So the private prison is now also in charge of like giving people time. So the private prison is in charge of the judicial.
if you have a corruption problem, again, you can either create
Just answer the question.
a branch of the government that monitors and checks on the system to make sure it's not a colluding system in which the same private company that owns the police also owns the jails, and
Okay,
therefore
so
will
a
just arrest
private
everyone
company
for profit.
A private company can put you in jail.
I don't have any problem with that.
Okay, I don't even know how to respond to that. Yeah, private company can put you in jail. That seems like a great idea. Except, wait, what would happen if the person?
Do you own property?
It's irrelevant. What would happen if the point?
No,
that,
it's not
if the,
irrelevant.
What would happen if the
main
person?
point.
What would happen if the person who is arrested by a private company doesn't want to go to jail?
So if
and
you
he
own
has a
private property and someone trespasses onto your property,
Just
normally
not engaging.
you have to wait for the government police to show up. Some companies have these things called private security, which are on site and ready to arrest or detain or whatever.
They can detain. They cannot give sentences.
Right.
The police
Under
still
current
evaluates.
system, under the current system, under a different system, it would be feasible for the same private police system to then put them in a private jail.
So you would
for
have like
committing
a
the crime
like a warlord type of situation like Somalia, where basically like there's factions and whoever has the most powerful faction has the most power, and everyone else is sort of.
Oh, you mean
fucked.
like the government that has a monopoly on it and steals your money? You mean like that kind of warlord?
Where would you rather live, Somalia or America? I'm just curious.
I'd rather live in America before it became an immoral, socialist, authoritarian shit.
How about now? How about the 2024? Would you rather live in Somalia, which has
I'd
much
rather
closer
in
to what you want?
1776 America.
Well, fortunately, you don't have
Without
a time
the
machine.
slavery.
You're not going to answer the question.
I answered your question. I know you don't like the answer, but that's okay. You
Th-
just
that's-
like to lick
that's-
boots. It's,
tra-
it's okay.
Traveling in time is not an option. This is just
Just
like a
say
thing.
I like to lick boots. They're delicious.
Just where would you rather live in 2024, in America or Somalia? Somalia has a system that's much closer to what you're describing.
Oh, Somalia has privately owned police forces and privately owned prisons in which they are regulated by their small government, which is controlled by the freedom-loving.
Yeah, Somalia does have private.
Correct?
Somalia does have
That's what
private
they do in
militia.
Somalia?
They have private militias where each warlord has his own militia.
Okay, so
and they
one
all
more-
disperse. They all disperse their own version of justice.
One more key ingredient you're missing. Does Somalia have
Somalia
a
has
Christian-based
government.
morality?
I believe it actually is. It's a part. I think it's mostly a Muslim country. I don't know if it's Christian and Muslim or just mostly Muslim. Some combination.
Do you know the difference between Islam and Christianity?
Do you know the difference between stupid and retarded?
I think you're both. So no, I don't know what's the difference. Can you explain it to me?
The difference between Islam and Christianity.
Islamic Christianity. I asked him if
Christianity,
you have Christian morality.
you're
He
engaging-
responded, I don't know,
Messiah.
Christians, Muslims, blah, blah, blah,
The difference
Muslims
between
believe that
okay. So do you
Allah
think
is
that
their
do you think that
Messiah.
if it was a Christian country that Somalia would be fine? Like let's say they all converted to
It'd be
Christianity
better
tomorrow.
than the alternatives. I guarantee you it would.
Well, then why is let's say Jordan, which is a Muslim country, have so much more peace and stability than let's say let's take like Honduras or El Salvador. Let's take El Salvador, which is a Christian country.
Probably the same reason why China, which is an atheist communist country, has so much more peace and stability because they have
They
thought
don't.
police and cameras on every corner. And if you say anything negative about the government, you disappear into the gulags. That's why this is what you're
That's not
pushing
actually
for.
how Jordan works. You're
This
thinking
is
of,
how
you're
reality
thinking of,
works.
You're thinking
with
of Saudi Arabia.
authoritarian governments that control everything you think and say and do and live and breathe. And this is what you're arguing for. So go ahead, please.
Jordan's King Abdullah is very westernized. Jordan's a very westernized Arab country. That's what it is.
So, anyways, if you have a
Jordan-
Christian morality, a capitalist economy, and a libertarian government, it is feasible to pull off private security forces, private prisons. And then I would draw the line there because you don't want
Well, that's
privately
a-
owned judicial courts because that's where there's a conflict of interest. So the very, very, very small limited government, their role is to enforce the rule of law and to enforce.
Well, if
border
it's a very small,
security, that's
limited
it.
government, then what's to stop one of these private companies that have the power to arrest people from overtaking the very small, limited government?
Well,
Are
Alex,
you an
let me
ortho,
make a
bro?
quick point.
You sound exactly like them.
Let
Just
me
answer
make
the
a quick
question. Stop
point.
dodging.
Sarah, hold on.
What's to stop a freedom-loving people that want small, limited governments? I'll tell you what stopped it. We tried it in America. We got
Nope, he's
lazy,
just gonna dish
and we
gallop.
allowed
He's
the
just gonna
socialist
go on a random
authoritarians
tangent.
like you to take over, and now
I'm
we're up shit creek without a paddle.
It's funny that you think like you understand my politics. I'm not even like nearly.
You're arguing against it, so
I'm actually in some ways like on foreign policy and
clarify it
social
for me.
issues. I agree mostly with libertarians, but your view is just insane. The question
sorry.
the question was just is really simple. Just can you answer
go
without
ahead.
like dish galloping? Okay, so we have a very small limited government. The government is not that powerful. It's very small and limited. And then you have all these private companies that have the ability to arrest people, for which they're going to require weapons, right? Because you can't arrest someone without
Sure,
weapons.
tasers, whatever, pepper
Well,
spray.
no, they're going to
handcuffs.
require guns, because if people have guns, then the people who have guns
True,
can just
that's true. I don't have any problem with. All
yeah,
of
so the private
citizens owning
security,
guns.
so the private security company is going to have guns, right? So what's to stop the private security company from
I will
overtaking
tell
the
you,
government?
Alex, I have the problem solved. Whether it's a private prison or a governmental-run prison, I believe I can cut the prison population down very quickly if
Legalizing marijuana.
If the first 24 or 48 hours when a prisoner or convict is sent to prison, if we have mandatory anal prison sex, that will
Ugh.
deter a lot of crime. So
Jesus Christ.
if a guy knows that he's going to get ass fucked within 48 hours of going to prison,
This is your
he's not
brain on
going to want to go
drugs.
to prison. And that is how we cut the prison population down.
Well, first
What
of
do you
all,
think
I'm
about
pretty sure that already happens unofficially in prison, so I don't think you really need too much legislation for that.
Government
So
prisons,
we
definitely.
make it
They're the worst.
mandatory. Alex, it's mandatory. You have to get ass fucked the first 24, 48 hours.
Yeah, and who
I
has to
believe
do
that
Spicoli, who has to do the ass fucking? What if the guards don't want to ass fuck someone else?
And with
What if
that,
they're like,
Sarah,
No,
I'll
there's
take
always
my
gonna-
leave.
wait, just answer my question before you go. You just dodged it.
It always
find some big
goes
black
down.
dude or white
Wait,
dude.
just have
There's
him
always
answer the
some
question. He's
horny-
been dodging it for like 3 hours. Just answer the question.
There's always going to be some horny fucking convict. that'll
Okay,
be
sorry.
willing to
I
do
don't
it.
want to be accused of rage quitting, Sarah. So
Not rage quitting. Just answer the simple question.
So
I've
to
asked it.
answer your question, what stops good and intelligent people from having our personal responsibility?
Not the question at all. Once again, just listen to the
Getting
question.
Stop just galloping and let me answer the fucking question.
Because you're changing the
Okay,
question.
so
You're changing the question to one that you want to answer. The question
same
is,
thing-
what is to stop
Okay, I'm not gonna answer
one of these powerful
I'll
private
let him
security
just gallop
companies
for a while
from
since he's
overtaking
coping with his
the government?
shitty
Just-
ideas.
I'm not even giving an
getting
idea. I'm just asking.
ass
I can't do this with
Gentlemen,
people. Someone's talking about ass fucking.
Alright.
Someone's changing the question. Like there's too much shit going on.
Spicoli, shut up for a minute and let the men talk.
All right, so
I'll just answer Sarah.
Just
since she
don't.
deserves
I
an
know
answer.
you really don't want to answer this question, but try to answer the question.
I'm
going to
dodge the question, and I'm afraid of you, Alex. You scare me. Okay,
I know
so I'm
because
gonna talk to Sarah now.
it's such a simple question that you cannot
That's
answer.
okay. That's okay.
You've been running from it for like 10
I
minutes
know.
right
I've been
now.
gish galloping, and
I
I'm
do wanna know
so
the answer
duplicitous.
I know it's funny that you're sarcastically saying the things that you're doing.
I know.
making it
I
seem
know.
like you're
gish
not doing them.
galloping, and I just keep gish galloping. I know.
Alex,
Well,
It's
you
not
refuse to
ready to
answer
rage
the
quit on us.
most basic question ever.
I'm addicted to.
All I had to do to have you was sign up for tier 2 of your Patreon. 'Cause you're my Patreon girl, and your love for me depends on how much money that I pledge to you monthly.
Now, we got through the entire night with nobody getting all upset or interrupting each other and yada, yada, yada. And here we are at like the last little tidbit.
And then Alex showed up.
And then you two can't get along.
I'm chill. I don't even know this dude.
Hold on.
Go ahead, sorry.
I-5, please answer the question because now I want to know what
I'm going to
the private companies.
Answer the question to Sarah. So I'm not talking to anyone else on panel. I'm on my way out. Sarah.
Okay.
So the thing that causes our libertarian governments to fail, like the first
It's
one, we
anal
created,
sex. It's anal
was
sex there.
was the.
Shut up, Carrie.
I'm not talking to anyone else but Sarah. Is the immoral socialist
Answering a totally different
authoritarian-
question. Not
Hold
engaging
on,
the
hold
question
on,
at all.
Hold on, let me get the rest of the sentence out.
Well,
first.
make him answer the actual question. He's just answering a question that
I
no one
don't
asked
know
him.
I don't know what his answer is because I want to get.
He's just going like a fucking virtue signal. Okay, go ahead.
Let me get the whole answer.
Anal beads is his answer.
Ah, Jesus.
Can you speed date with me real quick, Sarah? I've got hot feelings for you.
Oh, hot
okay,
feelings.
so
Yes,
anyways,
good
the answer to any crayon eating retard that doesn't speak English, the reason why moral capitalist libertarian governments fail, kind of like we created a long time ago, back in the early days of America, was because good times make weak people. And those weak people just let all of those immoral socialist authoritarians right inside the door and take over everything, little slice by slice. And before you know it, we're arguing about crony capitalists and fascist governments, and it's too late because you can't vote your way out of that shit. So there's your answer. That's why it fails. So in order to maintain your freedoms, you got to water that tree with the blood of patriots from time to time. So there's your bedtime story. Kids, don't forget to brush your teeth, eat your veggies, and vote Emperor Phi of Conservataria. And with that, I wish you all a good night. Adieu. Blessings, love, and kisses.
Bye, Phi.
Homie didn't answer the question in one bit.
I didn't feel the answer either.
He was answering a question that no one asked him. What a fucking dipshit.
Sarah?
Yes, Osborne.
Thank you for having me on your show. I have to go. My parents are calling me, so I'm grateful for you for bringing me on your show. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Enjoy your breakfast, Osborne.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I take 2 minutes to describe why his ideology is retarded?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's still
Okay. So he's like a hardcore libertarian, but even most libertarians don't say that like they're the private companies should be able to arrest people. He's like the most hardcore, insane libertarian I've ever seen.
Exactly.
Even mild libertarianism leads to things like Argentina, where the country is a complete failure. When you had what's his name? I forget the guy's name, but the new guy that came into Argentina, he's a hardcore libertarian. Now you have inflation at 300%, because when you get the government out of everything and you just let corporations take over everything and private companies take over everything, you have a lot of people getting fucked. You have a small people at the top doing really well, and you have everyone else getting fucked. Now, if you take it to the level that he's recommending, which is essentially you have private companies that have the power to arrest people. Think about how insane that sounds. So a private company could go up to you, like you're a Walmart, they could go up to you and they could say, if you don't buy this, we're going to arrest you and put you in jail. So now at that point, everyone starts walking around with an army, a mini army. And then you have basically a bunch of what they call warlords, which is what you see in Somalia. Everyone's fighting for power, right? So so right now the government has a monopoly on firepower and violence. And now you stop that. So you have everyone else vying for violence and power, and then you just have people killing the fuck out of each other.
Who gives the private company the authority to take over, though?
It would be the government would step down from doing it, and then that would naturally happen, right?
But they're contracted through the government, though, right?
No, that's not what he's advocating. He's not advocating that. He's advocating like private companies in general will have the power to arrest people. Like he's talking about like private security companies. Like for example, you live in like a nice building complex and someone breaks in, they have the security come, they kind of hold the person until the police gets there. Well, under his system, that company would be able to actually arrest that person, beat the shit out of that person, put that person in jail.
Well, Alex, bounty hunters could do that right now, though, can't they?
That's a specific court order, though, right?
Bounty hunters have a court order, number one, so it still goes through the system. Number two, they're not allowed to. Bounty hunters they don't decide someone's sentence, nor can they imprison them. All they can do is take the person who escaped and put them in jail, but it's still the jail that jails them, and the bounty hunter isn't the one giving them the sentence, right? So that's a little different. Right. A bounty hunter, you can make a good argument for why that's fine, but if you get like bounty hunters who now have the power,
don't they agree to that? They agree to having a bounty hunter if they fail to pay or show up.
Well, the person who's being bounty hunted doesn't never agree to it.
They agreed to it when they took the bail, though, right?
Oh, did they? I don't know. I've never been arrested, so I don't know.
That's what they do.
I think you agree to that, so it's like that's self-serving. So yeah, like that's just a condition upon that contract that they have the right to come track me down and arrest me for doing that.
Well, because if the bounty hunter doesn't arrest a guy and bring him back, the bounty hunter doesn't get his fucking money back from the court system.
Right.
Like that guy was talking about, like, oh, late 1700s America, which obviously was such a great time to be alive, with fucking smallpox and measles and people dying at the age of 25. But that was pre-industrialization. The real time we would have to look at is like the late 1800s. That was post-industrialization, but before the modern American government took root. We had like basically like no real regulation. And what you saw happening is like a lot of companies were selling shit that was like literally poison. It was killing people, right? But there's no regulation about it. So no one was responsible. You had banks basically doing whatever fuck they wanted with people's money. And which is why in the 1930s, you had the Great Depression, is because basically the banks already used all that money that they're holding for people, because again, there's no regulation. So that's you have shit like that happening where like a small percentage of people do really, really well under that system, but then like 99.9% of people get totally fucked because the drugs they're getting have poison in them, because why not? Like you can make money selling anything, right? There's no efficacy. You have companies dumping in rivers because there's nothing stopping them. They can dump why would they pay extra to responsibly get rid of their toxic waste when they can just throw in the river? There's no consequences for it. And you have why would the financial people like not steal or scam or use your money when you give it to them? Why? There's no consequences. So that's kind of but no one ever talks about like the late 1800s. They talk about like the 1700s, which conveniently was before the industrialization age, where you had like essentially you didn't really have large amounts of wealth. You basically had people who were farmers, and then you had like maybe a merchant store owner, but you didn't really have like the massive amount of wealth and issues that there wasn't really you couldn't really poison the water in the late 1700s because there was no manufacturing. So like they talk about a time that is has not existed in over 150 years, and try to use that time to prove a point about the modern. It's like saying, well, wouldn't it be nice if we just like cars are kind of dangerous if we just like rode horses everywhere. It's like, okay, yeah, try riding a horse on the highway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
well,
but
our means of travel would become
Alex,
incredibly different, though.
But Alex, they were still pissing and shitting in the water and polluting it. But that previous guy.
The scale, though, the scale is different, though. There's a big difference between shitting in the water and dumping 20,000 tons of toxic fucking chemicals in there.
Of course, but Alex, don't take what that guy said. Take it with a grain of salt, because he sounded like a woke feminist soy boy. So it's irrelevant what he was saying.
I don't care. He's not the first libertarian I've ever debated with. They're funny. He really would not answer that last question, because there's really no good way to answer that question. How do you answer that question? If you give private companies immense amounts of power and you have a very weak central government, then what is the guarantee that they don't take over the government? There's no answer to that question.
I mean, look what they did in fucking these South American countries like Argentina, Venezuela. Let me ask you this. How did your debate go with Rolo, and did he rage quit on you?
He did quit. I don't know if it was a rage quit per se. If he was pissed off during the debate, although I don't think it qualifies as a rage quit. It was long and exhausting and unfair. Michael Sartain came in and cheated a bunch of times in Rolo's side. I wasn't a fan of that.
I noticed that on moderation, as far as Sartain was concerned, he intervened a lot, and not in a way that seemed incredibly biased. He kept taking Rolo's side on stuff. He just said that he, went and did this or did that or doesn't care or whatever.
He wasn't a moderator. He was part of the debate.
Oh, I didn't know he was part of
it. No. So officially, he was supposed to be a moderator. But I'm saying in reality, he was part of the debate. He officially, we agreed that he was supposed to be a moderator. Notice how, even in the very beginning, when I was, outlining the rules we agreed upon, he's like, well, maybe we could come in and, he was already trying to, push that. I was like, no, dude, we agreed it was going to be a one-on-one debate. And then every time when I watched it back, it really hit me when I watched the debate back, is every time that Rolo was, at a really tough point where he was stuck, where he didn't know what to say, that's when Michael Sartain would come in.
Yeah.
So I thought that was bullshit.
I don't mind translating between two people on screen, or kind of getting to the crux of if they're at a stalemate moment and they don't know where to push forward at. But maybe translation is where I mostly stay. If one person is saying something and the other person saying the same thing but just under different wording, I usually like to kind of find that middle ground where they can both hear it the right way. But outside of that, I stay out of it. I just stay out of it because I don't ever want somebody feeling like I took a bias or, stood on one side versus the other.
Hey, Alex, I have a good question. Did anybody I'm not trying to make a joke here or anything, but Alex, did anybody accuse Rolo of fucking the moderator?
No, that never came up during the debate.
Because it's come up. The only reason I mentioned it, it's come up in like one or two previous debates. and
I mean, I don't actually think that Michael Sartain and Rolo have sex. I mean, there's no fucking way. Like, I have many criticisms of Rolo, but being secretly gay is not one of them. I think he's like a straight man.
Do you think Michael Sartain suffers from SPS, which is small penis syndrome?
I don't know anything about Michael Sartain's penis size. I like Michael. My only issue was with the way he moderated the debate, but I still overall like Michael.
Now, what about?
Yeah, I don't think he did it intentionally. I think he was just trying to help find resolution, but his resolution had like a one-sided plan. I felt like
maybe he did straw man me a good amount. So I'm less inclined to believe that. But look, I sort of get it because it's his business partner. But and I also give him a little bit of a mild pass because he's never moderated, or I don't think he has experience moderating.
Mm-hmm.
But it's at the end of the day, like if you don't think you can stay unbiased, then just don't agree to moderate. At that point, you just have to be like, you have to know yourself and be like, I can't moderate this fairly.
Right.
Alex,
or
I
at the very least, just host and let it, I mean, mainly I only intervene mostly when people just can't shut up and it gets to the point where nobody can hear what anybody's saying. And that's when I go into mom mode and I shut them up. But outside of that, like I typically just let them run their course, because like you don't need me intervening. You don't need me trying to, if you're not making the argument on your own, I'm not going to help you. I can't help you.
Yeah, nor should you. I mean, like, yeah, it's like a philosophical question. What is the role of a moderator? Like how, like there's different schools of thought to this. Like some moderators are very passive and some are pretty aggressive. And like, I'm like kind of more on the passive side. Like I typically try to not step in as much. But I think one thing the moderators should do, especially the last year I've kind of come around to this, is that when someone is refusing to, because there's so many bad faith actors, and when someone's refusing to answer a question or answering a different question on purpose, the moderator should force someone to answer the question. And I think that, like, again, like let it play out for a little bit, but like in this situation, like with this guy, I mean, it wasn't like a real debate or anything, but if it was like, if he's like repeatedly refusing to answer the question, I do think the moderator needs to be like, okay, actually answer the question. Like you have to answer the question before this continues.
Yeah.
Alex, I have a question. What are your feelings on? Do you think a moderator should have any type of sexual relations with?
Oh, shut up, Spicoli. Shut up.
Okay, now. I have one other question, Alex. What's your opinion? Did you see Michael Sartain and his girlfriend on the whatever broadcast that Brian has, and his girlfriend embarrassed him and like kind of disrespected him and put him down on that podcast? Did you witness that?
I saw a clip of it. I don't know if I agree with you. I don't have enough information to come to that conclusion. It seems like they were fighting and she was unhappy with him for whatever reason, and she kind of maybe lashed out. But I don't know. I don't have enough information to conclude that there was like disrespect or anything like that. It seems like they were just like not in a good place. And the last thing you want to do is when you're not in a good place with your girlfriend is do a big public podcast with her. But I don't even know. Like if that is that his like girlfriend, or is that a random girl he's hooking up with? I don't know like much about his like personal life like that.
It could it well, I noticed he made after she said something, he mouthed, you couldn't hear him, but you could read his lips. He said something like baby, like he was upset. But do you think he's in a pay for play situation with her?
No, I really don't think Michael Sartain pays for sex. I don't think that at all.
Do you think Rolo pays for sex?
I don't think Rolo has sex with anyone besides his wife. I think Rolo is in a totally monogamous relationship with his wife.
So Rolo basically gives advice to young men, but he's basically got a body count of less than 35, and he basically only fucks a postmenopausal broad who's about 55. So do you think that makes him an expert on telling men under 30 how to date and get laid?
Well, I think you know my answer to that. Obviously, I always criticize Rollo's credentials. His defense would be that he doesn't give advice, although I think that's bullshit. But yeah, obviously, I have an issue with Rollo's
Now,
lack
one more
of
thing
expertise.
before I go. One more thing before I go. Alex, when they refer to him as the godfather of the manosphere, let's be honest, that's complete bullshit. The real godfather of manosphere is Tom Leykis. Everybody should know who he is. And he was on LA radio since 1992, way before Rollo wrote any of his books. So, Alex, don't you agree that Tom Leykis is really the godfather of the manosphere over Rollo?
I've honestly I've heard the name Tom Leykis many times. I've even heard that Rollo stole a lot of his talking points from Tom Leykis. I've never actually watched a Tom Leykis video, so I don't really know anything about him other than like secondhand stuff. But I have heard people say that Rollo stole stuff from Tom Leykis, but I don't know Tom Leykis, so I can't confirm that.
Okay, so Alex, listen to this. He was on the radio Leykis from 92 till about 2002, and then he created his own called The New Normal. He created a website with a paywall that you can listen without a paywall. But if you type his name in on YouTube, you can pull up some of his videos, and I guarantee you, half the shit Rollo says came out of Tom Leykis' mouth, and Tom is about 67. So if you guys Google Tom Leykis, you'll see that Rollo ripped off literally half of what Tom Leykis preached.
Oh, Jesus, Kerry. Okay.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to let you guys go. I've got to go feed my cats, smoke some more weed, and decide whether I want to take some more magic mushrooms tonight or tomorrow.
Sounds like a busy evening.
Good night, Kerry.
Those are my big...
I'm trying to like debate this fucking like hardcore libertarian like Carrie's like bringing up like butt sex. There's like too much shit fucking going on. I'm like, dude, answer the fucking question. I hear Carrie like, yeah, like it'd be better if somebody ever got butt fucked. I'm like, oh my fucking god.
He was on earlier too. He made somebody else rage quit because he was bringing up like, would you rather be stuck in a male prison or a female prison? And I don't even fucking know. He went and then Leroy rage quit because of that. And he was like, nope, fuck it, I'm done. And Kerry was on a timer at that time because it was during the hot seat. So he only had like 2 minutes left. So it's not like anybody had to tolerate a whole lot. But
you proved me wrong, Sarah. Remember when I was telling you over text that I didn't think you could find anyone that would disagree with the idea that for-profit prisons are bad? Remember, I was like, there's no one that disagrees with that. I stand corrected.
But it all comes down to the nitty-gritty, because we've been through the whole topic tonight, and it all broke down into, like I was telling you, like it breaks down into other subcategories and where you draw the lines and how are we even ending up in these prison funnels, and then from there is there reformation, rehabilitation, all of these other concepts, and then then it goes into the actual prison in and of itself. We even got to the concept of drugs and the idea of decriminalizing that because our prisons are overflowing, yada yada yada. So it broke down into a lot of different great talking points. There weren't too many like hard disagreements tonight, which was okay because it was a nice slow night tonight. But the conversations, definitely we were able to cover a lot of ground intelligently without just yelling at each other and disagreeing. So it was really nice. It was a great panel tonight, and it was all kind of like everybody was last minute people because all of the people who were supposed to be on here all ended up not coming on here.
I'm sorry.
Well, you too, but like there was two others. One slept through, and all sorts of stuff. Like it was a completely last minute, legit put together panel, and it just happened, and it worked out great. So I'm thankful for everyone. But yeah.
Are you still planning on getting Destiny on for one of your panels?
Yeah, you're right though. He's very hard to he's responded a couple times, but then it's like he just disappears, and I'm like,
You gotta chase him like a hot flaky Tinder girl. You gotta be persistent. You gotta hit him with takeaways. You gotta You know, you got to persist. Sometimes I have to, like, if he stops responding to me too much on Discord, then I like alternate. I text him, and then we go back to Discord. Like, you gotta hit him up on multiple fronts. But
yeah, he had asked like what my main, you know, like what my channel mainly does, and I gave him like a quick, I don't know, 1 sentence, 2 sentence. Here's what we do. But I also asked him because I told him I wanted him on for an interview too. But I don't even know if he ever does interviews.
he does once in a while, but it's not. You're gonna have a much harder time getting him on for an interview. He's much more likely to come on for a debate because that's like what his audience wants to see. So, like, I think getting on for an interview will be really, really hard. But getting him on for a debate is like totally doable.
Yeah, we were Michelle and I have a religious concept debate we're putting together, and he would be one of the people I would want on that panel for sure, because he's been doing a lot of those lately. So, unless do you think he has any other like hot topic that he'd really, really, really want?
I think mainly political related stuff is his forte.
Well, that's why we tried to get him on for the capitalism one, and I thought it would be a good matchup because I had Jim Bob on the far, far, far right, for capitalism, and I was like, Destiny would be the perfect other end of that.
Destiny is largely pro-cap. I think for Trump-related things, that's his like main thing right now. Is he's like arguing with Trump supporters.
Well, yeah, but it would be again when you start breaking, like, people can still be on an agreement level of like, yeah, I'm pro this, yeah, I'm pro that too. But when you start breaking down into subcategories, that.
Yep, you kind of broke up there. Hello? Hello? Hey, what's up? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, sweet.
Okay, good. But like putting panels together, I pick people, like I pick 2 strong hitters and then 2 more like grounded, quieter people. This way it's not just a big power struggle on the panel, but I make sure I pick people that I know would be combative and well matched to their same level. Because again, they can still agree on the top, surface level question. But when you start breaking it down, that's when they're going to find like disagreements. Even tonight, like they still found a lot of disagreements in all of the subcategories, and they still agreed on a lot of things too. But just like you found with iFi, like it comes down to the nitty gritties of the whys and the hows.
Well, I think with him, it wasn't about the nitty gritty. It was about overall philosophy. I mean, we're starting at 2 different places.
Right.
He's starting with the idea that things are like, he's not only saying that the system is okay. He thinks the system would be better if it was run by entirely like for-profit companies. And I'm at the opposite. So we're like completely like 180 apart from each other.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, that's, just putting the right panel together usually.
It's tough. You should try to get Mr. Slave on for shits and giggles.
Oh my God, yes. I don't even think I can chat in his YouTube. I think he blocked me like a year ago or something because we were like, I forget what we were doing, but he just wasn't happy with how we were reacting to something he said. I can't even remember. But in that time that I like yelled at him on your channel, I think Andrew was on and Mr. Slave was on and like I came on for a hot minute just to yell because not Andrew, Mr. Slave was like 1 + 1 does not equal 2, and I'm like, shut up, like I'm so tired. I think it was the only time I'd ever been like really mean to somebody, but he hasn't liked me since then, so, and that's okay. But yeah, he would definitely be a good. He would still talk as if he's intellectual, but still the viewpoint would still be a crowd pleaser for sure.
Yeah, well, there's nothing intellectual about Mr. Slave, but he's
It
more of
would
like
sound intellectual. It's gonna sound like he's talking smart. Doesn't mean he.
it doesn't sound like
is.
that to me. Every time he talks, I think he's like, this dude's like has half of his brain leaking out. Intellectual. I even showed this. I go to like physical therapy, whatever, 3 times a week. And I'm friends with like people at the office. I even showed the debate to them. They like watched that. My physical therapist watched like 4.5 hours, the whole 4.5 hour debate. He was like, dude, I couldn't fucking put it down. He's like, what is this guy? Is he like, are you paying him to troll? I'm like, no, this is really who he is. He's like, oh my god, this guy's the most fucked up dipshit ever.
Yeah, he's definitely like, it got to a point where he would come on your channel and it would be amusing at first and entertaining, but then it got old because it was like, okay, now you're just bringing the whole panel down, because again, he was arguing that 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2.
Yeah,
And
well,
it was
for me,
like,
it got really concerning, and kind of that's when I was like, I don't know if I want to keep bringing him on. Is when he started talking about like the pedophilia shit, like there's no age of consent type of shit. I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know why people go down this weird fucking rabbit hole.
Yeah, I think that I think he likes that kind of attention. You know what I mean? Like, I think he sometimes says things that are completely out there only to get a reaction. Like we kind of pinned it that one time where he just wants attention and he'll do absolutely ridiculous stuff or say stupid things that are off the wall to get the crowd's attention, because he has to be like, even if the conversation is about something like a very specific topic and has nothing to do with him, he'll always find a way to bring the conversation back around to him. And it just gets annoying.
Yeah, he's a narcissist. I mean, he's kind of like me when I was in middle school. I used to always like fucking act like a dork for attention, but kind of got over that when my balls dropped. But seems like he's still on that arc. But yeah, I think he really, you're right. I think the thing he craves above everything is attention. Yeah, that was so funny. That remember that one time when him and the other slave were like arguing with each other and having like
Oh
a
my
slave
god!
competition.
Then the dog was sitting there barking, and then the other slave guy was like arguing with Andrew, and then I think Andrew like made fun of him because he suddenly like stripped all his mask and his shirt and everything off, and Andrew's like, well, why, if you didn't feel so embarrassed, why'd you take all of that off? And he's like, well, I'm trying to have a conversation. And he's like, yeah, and I can't even take you seriously if you're just like an idiot. I mean, they got annihilated. It was that moment. And I remember the chat too. Like, as soon as the other slave got drug out of the bedroom or whatever it was, and is crawling out like a dog, and the whole chat was like, what? And Andrew couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah, it was like a Kendrick Lamar fucking final diss track on fucking what's his name? You know who I'm talking about. Wow, I can't believe I can't remember. Oh, Drake, motherfucking Drake. Yeah, that's true. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
So what panels do you got coming up in the near future?
Well, Michelle and I are working on next week's topic. The Mod Mondays are really only the big panels like I spend most of the time working on. But then Saturday night's Sip and Stream, so it's just like I'll ask somebody to casually like, hey, you want to join me for Sip and Stream tonight? And it's nothing that's very formal. Sunday night is the Sleepy Tomato, so that's when I get on and it's just me and I talk to the chat. Sometimes I'll have a video to kind of talk about, depending on the week and what happened. Like more softer night. I speak very nicely and softly like this.
Oh.
Yeah, we go into Delilah mode, but that's why it's called the Sleepy Tomato. But it's our wind down from the week. And Thursday nights, I don't know. Like Thursday nights, I used to do most of my interviews on, but I just haven't had the mental capacity to want to do an interview right now. And Thursday night is prime time for everybody, so it's just really hard to compete with that night. in terms of the views, and it's just not unless I have a big name on Thursday who brings their own crowd. Outside of that, it's really rough to get them going on Thursdays. So
You should start doing like clips. Like you should, like, for example, like clip that part of me and him or whatever. Clip any part that you think is interesting.
I created a clips channel, but I haven't. It's because I'm still going through a lot of my old videos.
Oh no, I think you should do it on your regular channel. I don't think you should do a clips channel.
Why?
Because your channel is the clips channel or secondary channels for something for like an established channel, but your channel is in like the early growth phase. You want all that content to be on there. The reason I did the clips channel is because I have like my regular, so when I would put those clips, they would be under the video category. My regular videos are for 4 years, they've been like new unique content. So if I start reusing stuff in my video section, it's going to fuck everything up. But you don't really you have mostly a live section, but your video section isn't really like that you don't have any kind of established precedent there or whatever. It's just relatively free. So I would put in, if I was in your shoes, I would definitely upload this stuff to my regular channel.
I've been going through and taking all of my old interviews. I've been editing them and taking out the panel that tags on at the end, and then I'd censor it and all of that and make it look pretty. And then I've been re-uploading those back into my videos so that all of my interviews will be over there. And then I want to take some panels and I want this channel to be long form, and I want clips for this channel to be short form, because I don't want the short attention span people tagging on via my shorts or my any 5-minute clip videos or anything like that. I want those people to stay. And plus I want like short form to go out into the world and gain its exposure, with like viral mode. My stuff, I want it to be housed here, and I want it to be my people who are engaging, and I don't want a bunch of like random passerbyers.
YouTube actually naturally takes care of that. So for example, if I like watch, let's say I don't know you, I see a short on your channel, subscribe. I'm not going to get shown your regular content, nor am I going to go to your regular content. I'm going to just be showing your shorts. There's not much overlap between the shorts, the videos, and the live stream category. There's some overlap, but it's not a lot. YouTube naturally segregates those things because they figure like, okay, someone is watching shorts, they want to see more shorts, they don't want to see videos, type of thing. So yeah, that's not that YouTube naturally does that. I wish they didn't. They didn't used to do that.
But I don't want a bunch of subscribers from shorts subscribe to my channel, and then I have, let's say I have 100,000 subscribers and only 40 show up for my live streams. I want engaged people on this channel. I don't want short clips people on this channel. They can have their own channel where like they want short form, they want to subscribe to that, like they stay over there. Whereas over here, I don't want to be that person with a bunch of subs and a low engagement rate, especially in the chat. That's where I want like people. I would rather stay at 2,000 and have everybody that's subscribed show up, and that's it. You know what I mean? And we just ride that pony to high heaven, versus have 100,000 subscribers and still only like 80 viewers or something like that. I just don't want to get to that point. And I think that happens when your engagement people are no longer engaged, or your subs you're gaining are people that like, I watched this short once and that was it, but I never watched a live stream once. So I don't want to mix the two too close. And I've seen that happen to other channels where they, you know what I mean? Like they have
that sort of happened to my channel. Well, that and the fact that I diversified too much, and I made like I did talk about like do stream reviews, fucking texting, fucking demonstrations, fucking political debates, regular debates, Mr. Slave shit, speed dates. When you what's it called? Just do too high of a variety, you will get some of that. But I've never been too concerned about it. But kind of the unfortunate reality of that is like on my clips channel, for example, right now, like I put out a clip, I get like more views than I have my subscribers, right? But at a certain point, you get to a point where that ratio starts to flip. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, some people do a better job at it. Like Destiny, for example, he has 700,000 subs, but he'll get like 10,000 live viewers. But he's kind of a few and far in between.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and he has a very engaged, I think he has a very engaged viewership in a lot of ways. But I don't know. I want to keep it nice and clean across the board. And I want the clips page to just go spread its seed. Right. And it'll have, because people are going to be looking for their particular names of people or this or that, or this is where all of the titles will be titled with that, clickbait style title, things of that nature. It's just not my style over here on this channel. It's not how I title my stuff. I don't it's not clickbaity. And I don't want it to be that way because I want it to be for the viewers and I want them to know what they're coming into, but as far as like doing a, 5-minute video or less of a certain, I don't know, it would be like libertarian and whatever, like go toe to toe on what, blah, 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 it'll be more of that side. It's not my favorite. And that's why I want to separate it. And I want those people to be over there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. And that will, because it'll be done in that direction, that'll be more of a marketed for the viralness oriented short form, no attention span people. That'll be for them. You know what I mean? And that's where they can stay. But I don't want to mix my life.
Damn, sounds like you got quite the master plan for the Raging Tomato brand.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Sleepy Tomato might deserve its own channel too. I'm still debating
Sleepy
that one.
Tomato.
Yeah. Well, because it's a slower pace on Sunday nights and it's our wind down time. And I know there's a lot more people out there that would have an appreciation for it. But because this channel is known for chaos and crazy panels, somebody who's geared more towards a quiet voice and a calm evening would probably not find me as quickly. And even at that, they'd probably be scared away once they start clicking around to other stuff and they're like, oh, no, this isn't what I want.
I think I prefer coked out tomato.
Yeah, but I think Sleepy Tomato eventually will get its own channel and we'll kind of redirect that gear. I've got some ideas for that one I'll keep to myself, but we'll redirect that plan. And I need to go backwards first and clean up all of my old stuff and get that put back out because it's all behind the membership tab.
Gotcha. All right, Sarah, I sorry, I got to run real quick. I thought I had more time, but I'll catch you. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
All right. I'll see you later, Alex.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye. I don't think I've ever had a Mod Monday evening where I was actually the last one left on panel because people have slowly started dropping off. Usually, like the mudslinging and yelling is happening so hard and so ridiculously that I have to stay awake to keep it moving, and I have to wait until it starts to die down before I can be like, all right, guys, we're shutting down in 15 minutes. Because when it's hot and heavy, and you got to let it go. But I've never had a Mod Monday that kind of let itself die out. But I already knew it was going to be a slow night. We were up against a lot of really big events this evening, which is totally acceptable. And I know a lot of people, because school starts back up for a lot of people and people are getting in and out of their routines, or they're finishing up their last and final holiday or, summer plans and all of that stuff. So I just had a feeling tonight was going to be a slow night, but that's okay. And nothing went to plan at all, but that's okay. That's what makes it more fun. And it also creates, more learning lessons and the reliability of other content creators, people who we're going to bring on panels, so on and so forth. So it just kind of, it helps us along the way, and it helps us try to plan more backup people. Although tonight we needed backups for the backups. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, it was a great show. It was a really great conversation. There was a little tension, but it wasn't too much. Flow State's in trouble. He timed out people with his wrenchability that that was not a timeoutable offense. Disagreeing with somebody is one thing, but timing them out without them breaking TOS standards in my chat at the very least, we don't do that. So bad flow state. But King Philip and to Daisy, I believe what I looked at, I believe it was only a 24-hour timeout. So the next time I stream won't be till probably Saturday night anyways, so it should be fine. But yeah, Flo's in trouble tonight because that's just not how I run my chat. I will, remove people for pretending to be other people, like the troll accounts. I'll remove people for breaking TOS, hate speech, stuff like that, or like years and years worth of actual cyber stalking, cyberbullying kind of stuff. They got beef. That's a whole nother ball game. But nobody was saying anything that was. Actually, Flo was the one that was saying stuff that I would have considered like, all right, I would delete if Flo was typing some of the things he said. I probably would have deleted some of his stuff only because it hurts the chat and stuff. Yeah. P. Fletch, you nailed it right here. This is the bad Flo behavior. I think he just got worked up. I forgive him. But yeah, he swung his wrench around due to personal issues not related to TOS. And yeah, let the chat fly as long as everything's not too crazy. And I looked back at what Philip and Daisy were saying, and they weren't really saying anything that would have been, it was just disagreement. Whether you guys have a beef, like a long-standing argument, like if you guys have a long-standing argument over this religious concept or whatever, that's not my problem. That's just you guys both disagree forever. End of story. But it doesn't mean we got to time people out. I don't play that game. Everybody knows I don't play that game. Yeah, maybe Flo's on his flow, But yeah, we don't do that. So I do apologize for our two that were caught in the crossfire of that one. But you'll be back and up and running by tomorrow, and we don't even typically stream until it'll maybe Thursday. I don't know. Maybe I'll restream off of somebody else's panel this week or something. But oh Lord, I have to get up early again. This whole week I have to get up at 5:30. So I'm kind of thankful this one didn't run crazy tonight because I couldn't imagine trying to go to bed at 3 a.m. and then getting up 2.5 hours later. But I'll get 4 hours, well, less than 4 hours of sleep. It's okay. Or 4 hours, 4 hours. Yeah. I mean, I've been a wrench in other places and I get called all sorts of names and, I mean, I have long-standing beefs with people and I don't even, well, not even beefs, more like they just don't like me. And I'm like, okay. And I've been in chats where I kept getting timed out. I was, in somebody's chat and their wrench just didn't like me and they kept timing me out for 5 minutes at a time. And I'm like, I can't, I'm trying to communicate with the host because they're asking me questions. I'm like, I can't fucking talk because your person timed me out, and it's really obnoxious, and as a wrench, like you are an extension of the channel owner. And so when you represent them like that and you do something to that degree, it, you can do damage to that person's channel. I've had people not in my channel, but I've had people complaining about other channels where they're like, yeah, like their wrenches always time people out that are this or that or that, and nobody can ever be over there unless you're just in their group. And I don't want to be that person. Now there are some few who are like creepy cyber stalkers for me, and I just blocked them because it's my channel. I could choose to, right? But even when I've been in a wrench in other places, like I always think before I click, I'm like, would this person want this gone? Because I am that extension of that channel owner. So always be respectful if you are a wrench for anybody's show, to wrench accordingly and be a good representative of who you're wrenching for. And if you cannot wrench within that representation, then ask the person to unmod you for that. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I am so incredibly tired now. Not really. There's, there's lines that get crossed, and it goes into the cyberbullying tactics and all of these other things. And honestly, speech is speech. It never really bothered me any, but I'm not going to invite people to be on my panels if they sit here and have to be, have people being assholes in the chat. And I mean asshole by like hate speech. We've had a few issues with that, especially lately. And I'm like, there's no point, So, but that's the only thing that I'm really hard on is the hate speech and TOS guidelines. And that's why, because YouTube can see that chat, and anybody coming in looking at my channel can see that chat, and they can say, oh, there's a lot of TOS breaking in here. Boop. And then now they've reported the channel, and then it's not good. And so you guys have to remember, like, everything that happens on here reflects off me, and I am the only one who pays all of the consequences for anything that happens on this channel, not anybody else. So remember, as a panelist, as a wrench, as a viewer, as a chatter, everything you do and say, I have to take the beatings for it. So if you could do so kindly, and if you can't respect that and don't care to represent it properly, then, I do ask that you just don't be here. Logan says being a moderator is a job, not a status symbol. Correct. You are correct. And, we hand out wrenches to people that are, what we believe to reflect the channel properly and are loyal to the channel and all of those things, and can, Uncle Guns is like, him and Michelle are the wrench of all wrenches, and they take their job seriously. And P. Fletch, you do a great job. Pass, you do a great job. Romano, you're still new at this. So we'll figure it out as you go along. Lauren, I would imagine you're watching very well when you are here. I've seen you, I think, on other channels wrenching, but I know Uncle Guns, P. Fletch, and Michelle are always here early to ensure they're, everything's set up and looking good in the chat and already ready. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm ready to end this party. Sean just got here for the party. Sorry, Sean, but I am tired and this party is over. Anyways, everybody, I hope you had a good time tonight. It was a nice, easy conversation, minimal drama. It was great that Torsia was able to pop on as well. That was really cool. I haven't been able to share a panel with her in a while. But yeah, anyways, outside of that, fuck off.
A long time ago, in a YouTube world full of keyboard warriors, many monsters and trolls lurked in the chat rooms. They thrived on arguments amongst each other until one day, a heroine rose from the ashes. She was made from the tears of beta bitches and the sweat of alpha male gym guys. Throughout the centuries, this keyboard warrior princess showed up in many forms. She slayed many demons along the way. By the light of the moon, she led the Simp army into battle. Wielding her sword, she fought through the dark forests. With each new era, the monsters evolved. The keyboard warrior princess grew stronger, with new skills to bring them down. The world around her advanced, but so did she. Her heroism became known to society as technology advanced. And with each new generation, she had to learn how to blend in to keep her identity hidden. Now known as the Raging Tomato, this keyboard warrior princess fights for justice in every debate. She fights for freedom, for moderator bias, and she fights for your ability to battle on an open panel for your beliefs. She protects the Simp troopers from destruction. She fights to create peace among troll wars. She storms the battle zones without hesitation and leaves the battleground with her pockets full of souls. Are you ready to battle your fellow trolls? Are you ready for a moderator to give you time to talk? Are you ready for justice, peace, and a fair fight? Tune in every Monday night to watch your friends duke out their issues, or join the open panel so that you can fight the good fight and find resolution with your peers.